Good morning. It's 10:30. How is everybody? Happy Sunday. It's been a long week, it seems, for me. AJ is here.
Hey,
Hi,
good morning.
how are you?
I'm so happy to see you.
Me too. I mean, me too. Happy to see you too. Like, oh my gosh.
I know what you mean. Oh my goodness, give me 1 second.
Okay.
I gotta mute
Okay. Feels like a breath of fresh air when you get to be around your tribe.
it.
I'm probably gonna have to do that too because my usually my son sleeps late, but today he is up and very animated.
I do lock the door, so there's
Yeah.
not an immediate barging in. There was a very polite knock.
Oh, okay. So how's everything?
So good. I knew
Yeah.
after we got off our call last week. Remember, I told you like it's gonna be many lifetimes before next
Yeah.
Sunday. It's been
Doesn't
so
it
many
feel like
lifetimes.
it? It
Yeah,
feels like it.
yeah. How's your week gone?
It's been going really good. It's been eventful, and it like I'm just kind of like feeling the waves. Hi, Mia Moore. Good morning, and
Hi, good
happy Sunday to
morning.
you. What a beautiful little picture. The little afro picture. It's so good to see you, and I can't wait to get into topics today. And Mia Moore, feel free to, throw something in the chat that you would love for us to discuss. We love to talk about anything that's I call it kind of like woo woo. I love to talk about topics that get people's brains churning, you know?
Yeah. And, like, nothing is off limits, which I
Mhm.
think, we have implicit like, that's how we show up, we know that, but
Yeah,
maybe people watching this don't know that, like,
yeah.
anyone can ask me anything, I'm not gonna be offended by a question, we will set our own boundaries in the answering.
Likewise. Oh, I love how you said that. That is so good. Yeah. So ask what you want, ask whatever you want, and we can decide how to answer it.
Did you ever were you, in that ever, like, phase, July, where,
Mhm.
would you get triggered before where you are now, when people
Uh-huh.
would ask you questions? Like, "I can't
Sometimes,
believe they asked me that, how dare they?" What was it
yeah,
like for you?
I'm still working on that. I had someone a few days ago, almost a full week ago, post a question to my other YouTube channel. And well, no, it wasn't a question, it was more of a comment, but it was the same person who did pose a couple questions a few videos prior to that one. And by that time, because I was provoked and I realized that I needed to lean in more to where the problem was here, then I decided to actually block that person because they were, like bringing a lot of negativity, and it wasn't, I try to be like you. You know how you like you just kind of let the comments fly. You don't even
Oh,
necessarily delete them.
no, not anymore, I've raised my basement.
Have
So
you?
uh-huh, I will
Okay.
I will delete the ones that I'm like, not really
Yeah.
like it used to be very much like, well, you can think what you want and you're welcome
Right.
to think those things on my page, and now I'm there have been a couple of comments recently where I've not even felt bad about it, not even felt bad
Yeah.
about, like, cutting someone off, it's just like, not on my
Yeah.
page."
That's what and I realized that. So that was a learning process for me. Even you explaining that helps me because it lets me know that I shouldn't feel bad, which I did a little bit. A little bit, I felt bad for hiding the user from the channel.
Mm,
And it's like, why should I feel bad for someone who deliberately has shown throughout the videos that they really just want to bring the morale down? And they're not in
mm.
agreement with anything that's being said. It's one of those where it's like, why are you here?
Well, and for me, it was when I would feel bad, it was I know where it was coming from within me. It was the
Yeah.
idea that if I block a user, I it was part of my process of surrendering the weight of the world on my shoulders and
Yes.
stepping more into, I'm gonna be in my energy, I'm gonna show up for me, and I'm gonna let you show up for you. And so it was, like, tied together, like, there was this, um, like, sadness or, like, I had let
Mhm.
somebody down, if I couldn't be in the pure enough space to, because the ideal, I think for both of us, the ideal is to be in that space where anybody could comment and it's not gonna affect us, and we know that it's
Right.
all welcome.
Yes.
And so it was that, am I letting them down because I can't serve in that space yet?
Mhm.
And then stepping back and like, it's not my job to heal every single person. I do my responsibility, and
Mhm.
the best that I can do that, if that means that this is not welcome in my space, that's okay. They'll find what they need elsewhere. I'm not cutting them off from the light.
Yeah. True.
I'm not the only source of the light.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's very true. Like they can still gain what they need. They don't necessarily need us
Yeah.
as an individual. She said, never feel bad for how you're feeling because feelings are honest. They do not lie. Even if your ego says we should have thicker skin. I love that statement.
That's
Thank
really
you for that.
helpful. Thank you for
Yeah.
pointing out that it is the ego that's making that
Mhm.
judgment, because the heart is, I believe, God energy, right? And the God always loves each of us exactly where we are.
Right.
It's not like you have to be better and then I will give you love. So thank
Yeah,
you for pointing out that that's the ego.
exactly. So yeah, but other than that, like, I do really good when it comes to people who don't necessarily have ill intentions, you know?
There's that confirmation
Yeah,
that that's when you're in your zone of genius, one of your zones.
that's it. That's it. Always pure intentions. That's where I thrive. And another thing I noticed too about me is so funny. Do you remember me saying that I like to do like impromptu? Like it's hard for me to plan a video or plan what I'm gonna say or do.
Yeah.
It's easier to just so
Do
I
you at
know
least outline or conceptually know where you're gonna go?
sometimes like if I have to do a bit like when so on this channel I used to do all health videos.
Mhm.
So I would like have somewhat of an outline depending on the health topic. If
Okay.
it wasn't something that I had been versed in for years already and I've just researched the topic recently, then I'll have an outline.
Okay.
But even still, and I didn't know that that's what it was then, but even still back then, I allowed spirit to channel through me.
Yeah.
And I would like feel things coming through.
What would it feel like for you if you, over practiced before? Like, would you notice a difference?
Uh, well, it wouldn't be bad actually. It would probably be a little more fluid, to be honest, but um, I like fresh information. I feel like it happens better on the spot. And the other thing is, I noticed that, and that this is the reason why I brought it up. I only feel comfortable like really being me rather than a rehearsed me.
Mm. Mhm. I
Because
like how
guess
you say it
what?
like that.
I'm not any good the other way. I'm not any good the other way, and I can't be. Like, I'm sure everybody who's interacted with me notices that I'm I'm almost like a kid. And not to say that I don't have a filter, but like I speak what's truly me and what's truly on my mind. Not anything bad because I'm not the type of person who has bad things and negative things to say. But but I just feel more comfortable being open and transparent and free. It makes me
Mhm.
feel free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really funny that you say that because I used to have this judgment of myself,
Uh-huh.
and it creeped up a little bit last night because,
Uh,
uh, the improv theater was having a 10-year reunion,
yeah.
and so they had, like, 10 hours of improv, and I went and I volunteered my time for some of it, which I loved doing.
Okay.
I'm so glad that I went.
Yeah.
And coming back, that was more air going into me,
Yeah.
and driving back, I was really happy and I was replaying the moments, and then I caught myself starting to judge myself for being what I would say fangirl.
Oh,
Like that stereotype of being
yeah.
overly excited and too all in. And then I paused and I was like,
Yeah.
what if that is me?
I know, I like that. I know that that's me.
And I flipped it immediately. It's the first time that I've been like, "Oh, that's what I actually need to lean into, that girl right there. The girl that is
Yeah,
really just like, 'Hey guys, guess what? I did all these things and it's so cool and I wanna share it with you.'" Like,
yeah,
without any concern of, "Oh, did I come on too strong? Did I show that I was too
mhm,
excited too much?"
right. I love it when you're that way.
Thank
I
you.
do, it makes me feel happy, like, you're really bubbly when you're that way.
Thank
I
you.
mean, not that you're not, a
I know
happy
what you mean.
person. Yeah. And I am that way. Like I get that's why I use that meme. I need to post what Kay when she put it together, that meme of that little girl. That's me all the time.
Did you announce to the group before I came on that we know Kay's not gonna be here likely and that
Oh,
that's intended and planned, like, we're aware?
yeah, no, I didn't. So yeah, elaborate just a little on that.
Being too extar Yes! Okay, so I'm gonna so the comment says, "I struggle with this every day, being too excited, it's hard to be
Mhm,
dry."
mhm,
Yeah, and I think that goes back so there's this concept that your authentic self means calm, means
mhm,
zen, and it's really not. What was that epiphany that I gave you, July? This
uh-huh.
like, did you hear that voice note with the epiphany that I had of being other people?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I did not get to talk respond to that, but yes, I loved it.
What? It was the
You
I
want me to remind you what you were saying?
Oh, I got it, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, it was the
Okay.
improv game.
Mhm.
So we did this improv game where, um, each individual so we took turns, and
Mhm.
my job was to embody someone that I love and respect, that I have good memories of,
Yeah.
and to embody them, and to pick up their mannerisms and their thought patterns, and then to be them in a scene
Mhm.
where I have a monologue and people are asking me questions. And it was really cool because the person that I picked, I have information, like they're friends, so I know facts about their life. And it wasn't about like recalling the facts as if I was, like an expert in who they were. It
Mhm.
was about like feeling the energy of what makes those facts meaningful to that individual and then actually giving new answers. So
Mhm.
someone asked me like, "What's your favorite music?" And I don't know what this person's favorite music is, but it was like, yeah, I go by the vibe and I really like picking certain songs that get me in certain music. I don't even know artists' names, and like talking
Um,
like them and picking up the
yes.
mannerisms. And so that was step 1 to this answer. And then step 2 is once we each got to see each other's characters, we all were each other's characters in a scene together. And it was so much fun because the one person was playing the, like, "I have fantastic stories and I'm just gonna talk, it takes me a long time to get to my point, and I'm just gonna be, like, in your face and tell the fantastic stories," kind of like how we're talking about.
Yeah.
Like, being themselves, being excitedly themselves, and no one was laughing at that person because it wasn't done from a place of, "Let me mock this individual."
Right.
It was the individual who was playing that person was literally like, "I know what this person's like, and I love that this is who this person is, and let me step into who they are." And I found that as a scene partner to that person, or a scene partner to anyone else, and I've practiced with these people for, like, going on 3 months now once a week. When they showed up as a character who was well formed, it made it easier for me to react and to respond. It is so much fun. Improv is so much fun in ways that I never expected it to be. So the epiphany that I had was that when a character is well developed, it actually makes it easier for everyone else in the scene to show up. So the analogy to life there is the more that you can be you and well developed, meaning expressing who you are, the easier it makes everyone else in your life to discover who they are. Because these people in our first level 1 class when we were first starting to do scenes together, we even had to lean out of like asking each other questions because that's the polite way to interact with people.
Yeah.
Like the premise is no one in the audience wants to see 2 people meeting each other for the first time. That's not fun. They
Mhm.
want to know immediately what's the relationship. So you go on stage and you say something like, "Hey, mom, I bought you a present," right? That immediately tells everybody, including the scene partner, what our relationship is, that it's well established. And from there, that's the starting point that makes it fun.
Yeah.
And so this whole epiphany was like, I tried to show up neutral. I tried to show up bland. I tried to show up calm. I tried to show up
Mhm.
serene. I've had so many meditations where spirit's telling me, "Your voice is important. You can't go by not talking because other people are not talking. You are supposed to be the one who's talking when they're not."
Yeah.
And, like, leaning into, "Okay, I can't worry about hogging the conversation. This is who I am."
Yeah.
And it even comes up on this call, my ego tries to get in my head and be like, "You
Yeah.
talked more than they did." It's like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, but we enjoyed ourselves, and they
Mhm.
chose not to talk."
Yeah. We love it. We love hearing from you. I think we all love hearing from each other.
We do, yeah.
Yeah. So, when you left that message, it just filled me with so much life. I loved it because um, I had this realization probably, it's been like years now, but I noticed that there is so much refreshment in imitating people. Like it's really, really fun. And like you said, it's not mockery,
Mm-mm.
you know? Because like you think about like maybe husband and wife, and sometimes we do it and we embody them and we imitate them and we are mocking it. Sometimes it's when we're upset, right? But like when we do it in a way that, let's say like you're talking with friends or family, and you're we actually used to do it a lot in my house. Yeah, it isn't it? It's a very
It's an
interesting
interesting perspective about being authentic.
yeah,
I'm telling you all the life lessons from improv, and it doesn't have to be improv. Every time we find a joy in our life, I feel
yeah,
like the life lessons come, and for me, this
yeah,
is the joy right now.
yeah.
So you used to do this with your family in, like,
We
a loving
used
way?
to do it a lot, and it was so funny, like, my little brother used to imitate my dad, and he would have us laughing so hard. Like, he knows how to do it. Like, this is what's funny to me is that so since a lot of people don't really truly understand what, channeling is, and also even the difference between channeling and mediumship or whatever, right? But, like, channeling, when you're channeling someone, you can literally you can embody their spirit, and you can like almost become them. And so then you can also start to, once you do, you can actually start to like pull from that, and it comes out. So like he would imitate my mom like dancing. And it would just be so funny to us. We would all just like be together laughing.
And your parents too, also laughing.
Yeah, you know? So but I realized, I'm like, oh my gosh, there was a realization that I came to at one point where it's like I know how to imitate people really well, and it shocked me.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
and that was part of the epiphany too, right? Is that we talk
yeah,
about our spiritual gifts of like, "Oh my goodness, I it's really easy." Okay, like, it's
yeah,
really easy for me to pick up people's speaking mannerisms,
yes,
like, to the degree that I used to be socially conscious of being a white person, talking to a black
yeah,
person, picking up
yeah,
their speaking mannerisms, and it's like, I am not even doing that thing that gets laughed about, it's that I
yeah,
will do that in a different accent, I will do
yeah,
that like, if I'm speaking to a English second language speaker,
mhm,
because I
mhm,
collaborated with a lot of international individuals,
yeah,
I would pick up on how complex their sentence structure is and
yes,
give, like, the simplified sentence structure, not out of mockery, but
right,
recognizing this must be easier for them to receive because this is how they're saying it, and I
yeah,
would do it unconsciously, and
yeah,
I believe that for me, and, like, the way the improv is flowing for me, is that it's allowing me to step into all these different personalities now in a fun way.
yeah, yep,
I,
it
you
is,
did something that I wanted to point out because I think it's really funny. When you said that, like, a husband-wife
yeah,
would do it, and then you did this.
yeah,
That's such a, like, cultural thing, right? And
yeah,
Jared Seinfeld has a joke about this. I don't know if you've heard it, but he
okay,
says, he's like, I don't remember the setup, but it's something like, "Have you ever noticed that when a husband is talking to a wife and they're like, um" "You never support me. You're always like, 'Well, I'm gonna go lay down.'" And then the person is like, "Do I sound like that? Well, I'm gonna go lay down." Like, it's always a mocking point.
yeah,
It's the first
yeah,
question is always like, "Is that actually what I sound like?"
right, and it's so you know how they say like once you form that type of bond, which is a marriage, it's like you literally become one. You're just one person almost wrapped in one. It's
I could
so
see that risk, yeah, energetically, if you're not showing up in
yeah.
your own space. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, and then for people who were like really heavily into religion and the Bible teaches that, you know, you become one. You like a man will leave his father and his mother and he'll become one with his wife. And so when you think about it in that way, it's like you guys, you pick up each other's um mannerisms and stuff, even though and that when biblically they're just talking about becoming one whole, you know, rather than viewing themselves as separate, merging. And also, it helps when it comes to like how you view yourselves now in relation to your family. You're more of a package deal.
Mhm. Yeah. A team. We would say we're a team. We say that to our
Yeah,
kids all the time, like, "You could
exactly.
expect that we're gonna represent, like, a united front." And
Yeah.
it's been practice for me even in the last 2 weeks, and I've had really great conversations with my husband saying, I am aware that, you know, in the
Mhm,
marriage, I chose to take on your opinion when we would have
mhm,
conversations. I chose to take on your perspective. I'm not
mhm.
judging you for it. You didn't tell me to do that. I opted into that.
Yeah,
And now I'm choosing to be more in my own space. So there is a shift happening
yeah.
and I'm mindful of it. And it's really cool because now I'm learning how to show up in a partnership and trust where I can be all of me. It's
Mhm.
not about going to the immediate blend
Yeah,
and emphasizing those different perspectives and honoring them.
yeah. That is so true, AJ. And I'm grateful that you're bringing that point out because I think that people probably have not really been thinking about that as much lately. For some reason, that hit me this past week. That was one of the things I spoke on in one of my videos is like just keeping our energy, making sure that we preserve our energy rather than allowing it to blend when we're doing things like scrolling through social media, anything on an everyday, you know, basis, just making sure that you learn how to preserve that so that you can continue to preserve your authenticity and be what you need to be for the people that you are wanting to help. Learning not to blend also with them in a way because I'm the type of person as an empath where I mirror people a lot. And I didn't
Mhm.
even know I was doing it. I remember reading about it one day. And this again, this is years ago before I've known any about any of this stuff. But like I noticed that I want people to be comfortable in my presence. So I'll do what they do.
Hmm.
I'll do their body movements. I'll kind of speak in the tone that they're speaking in. I'll do whatever it takes for them to feel like they have common ground with me and that they can be comfortable being themselves. But then sometimes that can become too much.
Mhm. This is actually they have in cognitive psychology, they have terms for this and they do study it. And it's
Mhm,
basically it is related to exactly what you're saying. So, like, historically or typically, if someone is gonna learn a language, their accent is native speaker proficiency if they learn it
mhm,
before a certain age, like at a group
okay,
level, right? Like most people,
okay.
if they learn it before a certain age, they sound like a native speaker, which
Uh-huh.
means that like children pick up accents from their peers, they pick it up based on where they live, and then after they get to an adult age, it's like, okay, whatever accent you have, that's the accent
Mhm,
that you have. That's
mhm,
not also the case. If someone moves to a new location and they really want to identify with that group,
mhm,
they're they're more susceptible to picking up that accent.
mhm,
Or like I really like converging with you and
mhm,
blending energy is not always a bad thing. I did that
yeah,
with you very easily because it was exciting. It had an exciting effect and we were blending each other and it like escalated to this really beautiful excitement. And then I feel like
yeah,
now we're in a space where we're recognizing it can also be beautiful being in our own space. But saying no to that fun is a
mhm,
very intentional kind of like purposeful step
yeah,
because and leaning into like what's the new fun gonna be.
yeah,
'Cause we've had some really great, like,
yes.
really, really great
Lots of good times, lots
Yeah,
of good times, lots of memories.
yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Like it's just I just really appreciate life. Life is so beautiful. This journey, you know, of everyday learning more and more. I wouldn't have it any other way. I enjoy what I gain each day, you know? I enjoy the process of evolving. It's
So,
fun.
I was at the beach yesterday,
Yeah.
and the beaches we typically go to have waves that are like like for the like I feel comfortable in them.
Uh-huh.
They're like manageable for me.
Okay.
But there are beaches in North County that are about 40 minutes away, and that's where we were yesterday, where it's
Mm,
very easy to feel like a kid again because
mm.
even trying to get past where the waves are breaking, I can't touch the ground,
Oh,
they're
wow.
pummeling me, I'm on the
Woo.
boogie board and they're, like, really big,
Yeah.
so it's every time I'm there, I'm like, I feel like a kid again.
That's where
And,
people go surfing?
they have surfing throughout. There
Oh,
was a birthday party yesterday, so that's where the
oh,
birthday party was, which is why we went there, and I remember feeling like a kid again at that birthday
yeah.
party last year too.
Nice.
And, so I'm out there boogie boarding with my brother, and there's all sorts of memories of, like, boogie boarding with my brother when we were kids, and, um and it's, like, all coming back to me that I, for years, would have these nightmares of, like, a wall of a wave showing up and
Mhm,
me not being prepared, right?
mhm.
And kind of cognitively thinking back, like, "How did I handle that as a kid?
Yeah.
It never scared me in the water." And then years later, I'd have dreams and it would scare me. So
Yeah.
I'm out there yesterday boogie boarding, and the way like, I catch a wave is that I want it, like, as it's cresting, so that
Mhm.
ideally I'm up at the top and I get to crash down with it, okay?
Yeah.
So, if I'm too far out, it's just a hump and it
Mhm.
doesn't crest, and
Yeah.
then so I wanna be at the right space where, like, it's cresting perfectly, and I
Mhm.
discovered so many analogies for life
Yeah.
yesterday there, like,
Mhm.
"Oh, he caught the wave and I didn't. Oh, I have to be further out. Wait a minute, Alexis, your perfect wave is coming. Lean into it. Trust that you are exactly where you need to be to receive the
Mhm.
wave that's gonna come." And then, like, I'm, like, paddling and kicking to try and catch the wave, and then I notice that I'm bailing out before it's certain to me that I haven't caught the wave. Like,
Um,
wow, this is a metaphor for life. I'm saying I want the wave. Am I showing up as all in that I want the wave? And then, like, the funniest one is that, like, there was this really, really big one. It was a wall of a wave,
yeah.
and, it was already starting to crest, so I was lower than I ideally would have been wanted
Yeah.
to be, and then
Yeah.
my older brother said, "You should go for it," and immediately the child in me was like, "Okay, big brother," and I turn around and I go for it, and I'm, like, straight on, like, it's
Yeah.
straight behind me, and it comes, and I try and catch it, and you know what happens is I go straight down, I tank, and I'm, like, in the water, and then I come up, and my brother-in-law, he's, like, laughing, and he's like, "Mad respect that you took that. I can't believe you took that. That wave was, like, 6 feet above you. It was a
Yeah.
wall of water." And he's like,
Wow.
"And you took that straight on." And I'm like, "Wait, what?"
Yeah, you didn't even know. You didn't even know.
Every time I watch my brother and my sister and the surfers, right, they catch big waves by turning. I thought that was a stylistic choice to enjoy the
Mhm.
wave. I didn't realize that was a safety choice of, like, actually riding the way that it's cresting. He's like, "Yeah, you gotta see if it's breaking to the left or to the right and leaning into it and going with it." And
Mhm.
again, that's, like, sudden epiphany of, like,
Mhm.
my masculine energy straight on, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna go head on, and it's like, no, it needs the feminine energy of leaning into it with the subtlety of the
Mhm.
shoulder and, like, taking it a little bit, maybe what looks like a detour, but it's really gonna be where it takes you. And I'm like,
Yeah.
so many epiphanies from this boogie boarding yesterday.
Yeah. I love life lessons like that.
As
Let's
we have
see, she wrote a comment. I often take on others' mannerisms and energy, initially unintentionally. Now I use it to my advantage to identify with others as well. Yeah. I think we I think we all have a capacity for doing that because especially when I was young, I noticed that probably at about age 13, whenever I would hang around a group of my friends, all of us would start to take on the same laugh.
Was it
You
your
know,
laugh? Because you have a very joyful, prominent laugh.
I can't remember. I can't remember whose it was, but like that kind of thing is just so common. And then those are like those formative years when you do start having your BFFs and you get to that stage where you don't want to spend much time without them. So you go through that phase where you're always on the phone. Like my parents would try to get me to get off the phone, and I would never. They would even like take it out of my room until finally my dad just put a jack in my room because they were sick of me. But like when you're going through that phase with your friends and you start to like say things like them, you guys pick up some of the same like slang words. And everybody's like saying, even doing some of the same things. But to a degree, we still do that even as adults. And I think it just has to do with like who you really allow your energy to blend with. Because sometimes you don't even know that you're doing it. And sometimes you don't notice that you're doing it with someone who could be a little bit detrimental to to your energy. So we all have to be very careful and mindful about it because it happens kind of organically.
And even, like, not detrimental, right? Like, I said that I picked up you like, I
Yeah,
connected with you very easily,
yeah.
and the way that I found it manifesting or, like, the way that my attention was drawn to it was, it's not that I was answering what I thought you needed to hear, or I
Mhm.
wasn't trying to appease you.
Yeah,
It was more that I was literally tapping into what energy would be your answer.
yeah.
And so then it was doing a disservice because
Mm.
by showing up as you, I was not showing up as me. And
Mm.
in those topics, we needed the contrast. And in
Mhm.
everything, we need the contrast.
Mhm.
Um, and that's why I didn't notice it for so long with you, particularly because it
Uh-huh.
always felt like it had a positive effect. It was certainly
Yeah.
joyful.
Yeah.
And I did for myself have to go through this process of I'm not rejecting her
Yeah.
by being me.
Oh. Oh, wow. That's so interesting.
Isn't it? Yeah. See, I
Yeah.
even did it now. Isn't it? Like, that's your mannerism. That's not my mannerism.
Yeah, I noticed that you and me and Kay, we all are picking up on each other's mannerisms. But I love it though. I notice it sometimes when I watch our videos.
Really?
Do you when
I
you
haven't
watch?
I don't watch the videos often. Here's why, because, in my job as a in my research job life,
Yeah.
I spent many, many hours cutting sound files to create stimuli for research experiments.
Okay.
And so I'm still elevating the concept of having a large digital file that I need to spend time with cutting up.
Oh, gotcha.
So I had initially watched the videos all the way through.
Mhm.
I'm allowing more trust to come in
Yeah.
and allow me to guide my cursor of
Mm.
where on the video needs to be,
Flipped.
clipped. Because
Mhm.
actually first I would read the entire transcript. Taking the energy is easier than getting rid of
Yeah,
it.
isn't it?
Yeah. What, I would like to hear, Mia, more if you're open to it, some of the techniques that you have found that help you to get rid of the energy. I know that I can certainly speak to mine, and I'd like to hear July's as well.
Yeah. Yeah. You said, as far as which technique for helping to
What
get rid
helps
of
you?
energy?
If you did well, I feel like there's a distinction here. So it feels like we're talking specifically about when we have merged with other people.
Yeah.
Because we have talked about, like, okay, if you're taking on someone's energy that you don't want, but what in the situation if it's someone's energy that you like or that you align with, or just how do you find yourself again? Like, how do you find yourself? If
She said,
you
mhm. No, go ahead. You said, how do you find yourself if you what? If you find
so
your
if you
own version?
discover that you are if it's the awareness moment where you've discovered, "Oh, I haven't been being me."
Oh.
What's your process for finding yourself again?
It's mine is funny. Let me just make sure. She says, "Yes, I used to feel bad for this, but you're right. This is a disservice." Yeah, we can be disservicing ourselves. Mine is hilarious. I cut them off sometimes. It depends, like their energy. So it's more common when it comes to like men that I date. And if I notice that their energy is someplace that is affecting mine, where either it starts to seep over into the way I act, namely react. And I don't want any part of that, because typically I let them know, that that's important for me, that are both, we want to be, we know that our energies are potent, but we want to be in a place where our energies are good, so that when we do rub off on each other, it's a positive thing. So in situations like that, yeah, but like I don't think I've really been in a situation where um I'm like really close to or cool with someone, and their energy is spilling over into mine, and I'm like, don't want any part. Like usually I'm okay with it.
For me, it's yeah, I wouldn't identify it for me as like, oh my goodness, I have to get off. Like
Yeah.
I'm familiar with that feeling, and it's more of, for me, and especially this past week, it's been a deeper
Yeah.
understanding of what
Yeah.
grounded means and being in my physical body and being in my space.
Mhm.
So, like, when I go and watch these improv shows, they're really, really fun. Some of these teams are
Mhm.
very high energy and very, like, it escalates. That's the
Yeah.
game. That's the
Yeah.
game, is that someone shows up as a character, how can we escalate the situation to make it funny? So when I was playing that character, which I was, and that's why I fangirled last night, was because I chose the character I chose to play was my level 1 improv teacher, and then I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
him last night, and I told him, and I did a little bit of it, like, to him,
Yeah.
and it was a really fun
What did
conversation
he
because he felt honored by it, right?
Oh, okay, okay.
He's done that, he knows the process, and
Yeah.
it was fun for me because, like, 5 of the people in the class knew who I was talking about, so they were able to see it, and, and so the way that that got heightened, it was that I was showing up as this character that really wants people to, like, find themselves and be in joy and discover
Yeah.
the truth that's theirs, and then my friend just, like, which is hilarious, she thought that it would be great to heighten it by being the character whose feelings, she even said, "You've made me feel worse." Like, that's how she heightened it, is like, "Oh, this character wants everyone to feel good. Their words have made me worse than often before." And so that's how things get elevated. So it's really funny because it's like
Yeah.
this tense.
Yeah.
And so when I would go and watch shows, I found that, yeah, I'm enjoying myself, I'm laughing really loud, I'm having a lot of fun, and then I would leave feeling really exhausted. I
Mhm.
would leave feeling mentally drained,
Yeah.
feeling like I had to like I had whiplash.
Yeah.
And I discovered, I see the comment, I'll look at it in a second. I discovered the whiplash was less from, "Wait, let me try and figure out what's happening, it's a new scene, what's going on?" And more from, "I'm identifying with each character at every moment."
Yeah.
And so I had a big moment for me this past Friday where I went to watch an improv show, and my entire intention the entire time was, I wanna be myself watching it.
Mm.
So every moment, like, my laughter wasn't as heightened, but it was genuine.
Yeah.
Like, it didn't feel like it was escalating, and oftentimes I was just sitting there like this, like, appreciating the craft
Uh-huh.
and watching people showing up. And there
Mhm.
were some loud audible laughs, but it wasn't like I had to laugh as part of them hearing me laugh, as part of the
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
And so now that I was, like, so excited that I came home, like, "I did it, I watched the whole show and I was in my energy the entire time."
Yeah.
And now that I'm able to do that, I feel like I have a better anchor of a sense of when I'm not in my own energy.
Yeah.
Like, I used to shut people off, like, "I can't feel your feelings, I don't want to feel your
Mm.
feelings." And now I know, like, being in my own energy means I'm reacting as myself genuinely to your feelings without having to embody your feelings. So it's all about a barometer, and now that I know that that's what it feels like, I
Mhm.
return to myself by, how do I truly, how do I truly, like, how do I feel about this? What are my thoughts about this? And asking
Mm.
that over and over and over until I get to something that is different than what I am aware those people, or what I've perceived those people's thoughts to be.
Mm.
So just
Oh.
asking myself over and over, how do I feel about this? What is my feeling about this?
Oh, that's really interesting. I'm gonna try that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna start trying that because I never. I'm just like I'll go along with. I'm just there, Like I really don't think deep into it, and that's why I did realize that I needed to figure out a way how to keep my energy where it belongs, like you said, to have boundaries and not always blend and mix because usually I'm just like sitting there almost expanded the way I talked about before, where it's like you open yourself up and like energies can come in. But I need to be a little bit more protective of my energetic space. Why do I feel like I'm hearing feedback?
You've
That's
opened a portal.
I know. Did you hear that too?
I didn't.
Oh,
What does Mia Moore say?
yeah, I
They say,
love what she
I
said.
think you just have to relax and step back from the conversation. Allow them to speak for a while until you can identify how you truly feel.
Mhm,
Yeah, and that's really hard to do with people who themselves are not in their own energy,
mhm,
because a lot of people are in this space out here. And I know for myself, I've talked about it. I wasn't even in this space. I was in your space. Like,
mhm,
that's what I learned to do was, like,
mhm.
let me get into your eyes, like, "Where are
Yeah,
you?" "Oh, I found you." And that is so intrusive, and it
mm,
was a process, you
yeah,
know? And now it's more about, "Hey, I'm here. Are
yeah,
you showing up? I see you. If you
yeah,
want to be seen. If you don't wanna be seen, that's okay. I'll be here anyway. I'll
yeah,
be here for when you're ready."
mhm,
Like, it's a different projection level.
mhm. That's kind of how I go along with my interactions with people. I just I try to create a space for them to show up, and I want them to be their authentic selves when they're around me. All people, no matter who they are, I want them to show up authentic. So I try to create that space, that comfort level for them to be able to do that without making them feel judged or like I'm going to, have some sort of reaction. Um, and then I've just really been the type of person that accepts people for who they are. The only time that I decide that it's something that I can't, you know, it would be harmful for me is if it's just their energy is like, too negative or something, or, and something that's going to adversely impact me. But other than that, I
Well,
love
so
for people to be themselves.
and that's interesting what you said where you create the space. So I used to operate from a step further because
Mhm.
I want joy and love for everybody. So
Yeah.
without realizing it, I was not only creating a safe space, I
Mhm.
was also going into their space and saying, "Hey, come on, let's bring you here. Let's
Yeah.
bring you to joy." And then
Mhm.
so I was first of all, I was crossing boundaries for sure.
Mhm.
Whether or not the individuals had created boundaries, I was taking on the responsibility of them getting to that place. And
Mhm.
that is now I'm aware, right? I love myself for doing that. I love that pure
Yeah.
intention. It's a very pure intention,
Yeah.
and the only way that it works is if I let go of any responsibility for that person showing up to there
Mhm.
and let them choose it.
Is that, something that you did whenever it was probably someone who was a little bit of an introvert? Or what would determine she says she loves that, she likes that. What made you, decide that you needed to do that with any given person?
That's a really good question.
Because 'Cause I'm wondering, like, because I didn't see that you needed to do that when we all met, and I think that was because of under the premise,
Under the premise that it was being taken care of and that other people
Yeah,
had already been taking care of it. Yeah, for sure. And I was there taking care of myself.
yeah.
So actually, I love that you're talking about so it came from a place of, I think, really, really deeply as a really young child seeing the hurt in others, and
Mhm,
now I'm recognizing how I showed up in my divinity, which was,
mhm,
"Hey, guys, we don't have to be so sad as humans." And then
mhm,
it just became this really deeply ingrained part of me thing that I didn't even identify for, like, until, like, this past week.
mm,
Introverts is really funny to me
mhm.
that you bring that up. I actually did not make this effort with introverts. I
Okay.
would immediately assign that basically they were a blank slate neutral. Isn't
Mm.
that funny? Like,
Yeah.
I because I lived so outwardly
Yeah.
that if someone else wasn't living outwardly, I basically would assign them as bland.
Mhm.
Isn't that funny? Like, you have no thoughts because 'cause you're not sharing these thoughts.
Yeah.
I know. It wasn't even a judgment thing, I was just like, "Mm, alright."
Right. You just assumed that that's what it meant. Yeah.
That's what it meant. Yeah, you're not showing me who you are
Mhm. So
because
there's
you don't
nothing
have
there.
who you are to show.
Mhm. I think that that's common though, especially from a younger age. That's I think we all kind of think that. I still, after the internet came along and social media came along, I still sometimes look back at some of the people that I knew in high school who were like you described. And then now on social media, they're like this live out loud person. And it's like, how is it? Because you were the blank slate in high school. You were the blank slate who didn't say anything.
Yeah, and it really is just that they had, and of course, you and I know now,
Yeah.
I know many people close in my life who are just choosing not to say every thought that pops in their head.
Yeah. Mia Moore said, I believe I have to allow people to be themselves more. These are good pointers. Socialization can be
Yeah.
complicated. It can. It's so fun, though.
Mhm.
It's so fun, but it can be very complicated. I say be yourself and hope for the best. Hope that you're going to meet people who accept you for who you are. Really, if everybody had the love and the persona of our like higher source or creator or whatever, then we all can just like be who we are with each other without being so having strings attached or unconditional or having conditions.
Yeah.
She says she takes on the motherly big sister role too
Yeah, I
often.
do too. I
Yeah,
think that's, like, part of because like, what does that mean? Like, I mean, we know what that means, but let's, like, shed more light on what that means. Like,
yeah,
the motherly big sister role, that means something. Those words were chosen for a reason, and so that evokes the feeling of, like, supportive, "Come on, come along," because we know that that's from a place of love.
yeah.
Right? That's why those familial feminine words were chosen. You're indicating that it's coming from a place of love. And then that's like great. That's like if that's the level that everyone was at, that would still elevate us collectively. And then the next level is how do we elevate that and be even more ourselves and more boundary. So for example, I'm just like so many epiphanies from the last couple days. Um
Mhm.
like how you're saying, "Be yourself and hope for the best,
Yeah,
July."
yeah.
This image just came to me. It's so
Uh-huh.
funny of how I used to do it.
Yeah.
Grenade. That's how I used to do it,
Yeah.
right? Like, I'm gonna be all completely myself and but, like, almost with the expectation that it was gonna explode, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
let you all figure out what the boundaries are. I'm just gonna be
Yeah.
over here myself not caring. I'm gonna put it on you. And it's coming out in loving forms, like, there's an individual that I'm anticipating wanting to send them a loving note
Oh,
in about a week or 2. There's a special moment in their life that I want to commemorate,
mhm.
and so I've been reflecting, like, "Well, what am I gonna say?" You know, it always starts with, "What am
Yeah,
I gonna say?" And then
yeah.
I'm inspecting it really closely, like, "Well, why would I choose those words?" Like,
Mhm.
that particular phrase, what is that phrase wanting? What is the underlying intention of that phrase? How am I
Mm,
making the and so I, like, went through my whole process. First, I was like, "Oh, should I say that? Should I
mm.
not say that? What if they take it wrong?" And then I went, okay, Alexis, that's you being concerned, like, about um, caging yourself and
Mm,
not expressing yourself. Okay, okay. So is it that I want to say these things because I want to fully express myself?
mhm,
Yeah, I do want to fully express myself.
mhm,
Okay, okay, let's write out. Like, I'm high vibe. Let's go ahead and write out what I want to say so that I have this like settled in my mind and it's not taking my energy for the next like whatever many days it is. And so I
mhm.
write it out and I'm like, okay, but wait a minute. There's an undertone with this individual. I know. Okay, well, okay, well, that's putting on too much love. Okay, they know that I love them. And so it was this process of like, what do they already know about me? What have we already established in this relationship? We've established that they know that I love them. We've established that they know that I show up as myself. We've established that they know that I see them. Like, it was important for me to get the parameters set to really hone in and not do any kind of grenade or subtext throwing, which a lot of people do from a pure place of love. Like, how many
Mm,
times have someone said, like, oh, she made it about her? Well, she made
mhm,
it about her because she's starting from a place of love and
mhm,
she's not quite able to do only from a place of love. So she's throwing in a little bit of her needs as well. And
mhm,
so it was an exercise of how do I make this all from a place of love? Okay, well, I don't need to reiterate like the what some people might call like a super sap
mhm.
version of my love because I know that person has already received it. We've established that common ground. So
Yeah.
how can I make this note only be from a place of pure expression?
Mm,
And so I wrote it out. There was a little bit of like an intro, not an intro, but like the first part of the text, which was like, or with the message, which would be like, hey, here's why I'm sending this, right? To
yeah.
commemorate this thing. And then the next part, I was like, what is my expression? My expression I'm discovering is like song,
Mm,
which in this past week, every time I've been in the car, I've been in the car by myself singing from a
yeah.
place of deep resonance and feeling it and singing my prayers and intentions. Okay,
Oh, I love it.
so song has been part of it. Rhyme and playfulness has been part of it. Discovering my Celtic roots, which to me, the Celtic roots are the prayers that say may, like may you always, may you this, may you that,
Yeah.
right? So it all came together where basically commemorating this thing in this person's life, which is not a traditional anniversary per se.
Mhm,
It's more of something they've overcome. And so it's like all the things that I know from what I remember, they've told me about this thing they've overcome, and then turning it into this like beautiful prayer that's the may you this, may you that with very playful undertones. And
mm,
then so that's what I had written out, and then I had written out this last part that actually was that sap of like, I appreciate and you love like whatever, right? So
yeah.
then that was step 1, and then I meditated on it. Does it serve my highest path and
Mhm.
purpose and the highest good of all for me to send this? And there was kind of like an ambiguity to the response. I went, okay.
Um,
Does it like does it serve to send the first part? Yes. Does it serve to send the
Mhm.
second part? Yes. And then I already knew. Does it serve to send the last part? No.
Okay.
Because that was the like laying on thick or like
Mhm,
how some people will be in a position where it's like you could tell that they make it about them. They want you to know that they've served you by
mhm,
seeing you.
mhm.
And that's what I was doing in that last part. I was making it about me.
Mhm,
Um
mhm.
And so, yeah, so it was a deeper level of awareness, and you'll notice that my voice is deeper too. This is finding
Mhm,
more of me. There's
mhm.
less throat constraint, and
Yeah.
it's literally coming from a deeper place. There's power behind it. I'm not,
Mhm,
winded as easily as I would be talking for a long time because
mhm.
it's, like, open and in flow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
yeah.
Wow. It was I loved hearing all those things that you said. Wow. Like, and you also even touched on some things that I've been dealing with this past week. But have you ever do you remember that they used to have those greeting cards that you could put music to?
That you could record your own?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you made me think about that because you said that you were singing your prayers.
Oh, they're so much fun.
Oh, like I was doing that and didn't know I was doing that. So, and it was funny because I was driving, the weather was still warm, and I was driving with the windows down, and I was listening to a lot of my voice recordings. And at a stoplight, I started singing, like the recording was me singing loud, and I'm like trying to hurry and turn it down because I didn't want the people next to me like, what is going on with this girl? But like I was singing, but I wasn't, it was like, it definitely was what you just described, like singing prayers, but I didn't recognize that that's what I was doing.
It feels good to do it.
It feels so good.
Yeah.
I love it. And I think that, oh, like that almost feels like something we should bring to the playground.
The singing the prayers?
Yeah. Just so that people can have fun with it and they can do it themselves and, like something that they can take away learning learning how to do on their own.
Let's talk about it then. How did you
Yes,
get to a place like, have you always felt comfortable singing? Did you sing in the religious setting?
I did not. I only sing to myself. I don't sing. I've never sang in a choir or a group or any of that because I don't have a singing voice, but I do love my voice in the shower. And and I think that if I had like lessons, I wouldn't sound bad if I, had vocal lessons. But I love singing and I've recorded my voice all throughout the years just singing things that were on my heart. So I used to actually write a lot of lyrics, but I didn't realize that that's what I was doing. Like you're saying, it's like writing a prayer and then singing it. And
Mm.
that's definitely what was happening when I was at the stoplight. It was those types of recordings. And I'm like, they don't need to hear that, like, oh, what were some of the lyrics? Whatever it was like, that's private. They don't need to. It was so funny. I was trying to turn it down. But yeah, like what comes from here. So let's just real quickly, do you remember the was it the Palladians or who was it that had like the
The Palladians.
singing? It was the
Yeah,
Palladians.
and, like, I did a couple of that singing the other day, and then my husband was like, "You didn't snore last night," and I'm like, "Yeah, because I saw," like, it all comes together. Like, the
Yeah.
snoring symptoms are, I even went to a chiropractor, and he wasn't even in the Palladian space, but he was like, "Okay,"
Mhm.
he's doing muscle testing for my
Yeah.
nose and everything like that because I said the
Uh-huh.
snoring and the throat tension, and he
Yeah.
said, "You need to hum." And I'm like, "Of course I do, because
Mhm.
it's the Palladian thing." So it's
Mhm.
all about where is their energy blocked and how is it needing to be expressed.
Mhm.
And this is like a framework we know, which is like other people don't need to take it on, but the
Yeah.
concept is that if you are of an energy where your form of expression is your words and your voice,
Mhm.
and you're not using your words and your voice, it could be that you have um, throat uh, uh, medical
Blockages?
manifestations. We have
Okay.
thyroid problems in my family, right?
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. Snoring, deep snoring, right? And so
Mhm.
by the concept here is that by recognizing that those are physical manifestations of an energetic block, then you can
Yeah.
potentially heat it off. I'm not a medical doctor. This is not medical advice.
Right, right.
By expressing those needs. Is that
Mhm.
kind of the nature that you wanted to talk about?
Mhm. Oh, yeah. Because people, I think it's good to shed light on the fact that these things manifest themselves in those ways. The same way, if you're the type of person that tends to censor yourself a lot, or you're carrying some sort of guilt throughout your life,
Guilt
right?
for a deep secret. Ah,
Yeah. Like it manifests in your health. And now
yeah,
you're wondering why you have a certain disease. And it's coming out from those things that start psychologically.
yeah.
So yeah, definitely. It's all connected. All connected. So man, like that's a really good way, despite anybody's origins, right? It's a good way to transmute is through singing.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, so now's the time.
Yeah.
I'm not a singer,
Uh-huh.
and for context, um, looking back now, I'm smiling because it's really obvious to me.
Yeah.
Singing along to songs for me was about matching the singer's voice. Even
Mhm.
to the point, like, so for high school, my one of my favorite bands was Flogging Molly, and it's got an
Mhm.
Irish singer. So
Okay.
he's saying words in English, but with an Irish accent. So I would like sing the words the way he says them.
And his
Like, talk
accent.
about talk about embodiment, right?
Yeah, yeah.
um And because I wasn't comfortable or confident singing everything. Well, and they're their words too, right? Like,
Mhm.
so singing someone else's words, I feel like if I'm going to be stepping into singing their words, I'm going to sing it the way they sing it.
Yeah.
So I was never confident singing without a track or anything like that.
Mhm.
So the way that I got comfortable,
Terrifying.
the, which part is terrifying?
I think she means the singing.
Oh, the singing. Yeah. Okay. So let's break it down. Okay.
Yeah.
So I first started getting comfortable with my voice. I'm gonna cough.
Mhm.
In the context of toning, toning.
Mhm.
And this is a concept I learned. Speak truth more often in a compassionate but authentic way was the lesson I took away.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. And
Yeah.
step into it like in stages. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be all, now that you know it, it has to be 100. Like do it in a way that feels comfortable. And the more that you do it, it's like a feedback mechanism. The more it's comfortable, and then you'll discover that if you don't do it, you're causing more pain to yourself.
Mhm. This
That hap-
conversation is so healing.
that happened to me yesterday running. I'm getting into running,
Mm.
and I've
Oh,
run before. I was practicing for like a half marathons a couple years ago.
yeah.
And anytime I start, the part that I freak out is the breathing. And so
Yeah.
there was this huge release yesterday at the beginning of the run where I'm like trying to breathe. Now I'm freaking out that I can't catch my breath. And it was like,
Mhm.
your body knows, your body knows, your body knows. Okay, I'm just going to release. My body knows what to do. And then boom, the control I was putting over my breath went away.
Mm.
Everything opened up and I could breathe. And then it
Mhm.
turned more into, I don't want to keep running. I'm going to stop now. Oh,
Yeah.
now it's really hard and it hurts.
Yeah.
What does the body want? The body wants me to keep running. Okay, this is the now or never. Am I going to honor that my body wants me to keep running and keep running? Or am I going to be in my head and go, no, that's enough for right now. That's the only growth I want to do. I want to walk now.
Right.
And it was like so much
Yeah.
more of it was body wants to keep running, body wants to keep running.
Yeah.
And then the flip of it would be my mind would say, okay, I'm going to run to the top of that hill. Nope, body wants to stop right now.
Mhm.
Like, so integrating the mind and the body in this
Mhm.
run, it was really great.
My favorite thing about that is because I love running. Like I used to run like 8 miles a day.
Wow.
So I would, when I was in Las Vegas doing it, I would look at I lived maybe 10 miles or so, maybe no, not even 10 miles. Well, I lived, yeah, maybe about that much, maybe 10 miles from the strip, from
Oh,
the Las
wow.
Vegas strip.
Could you see it and hear it or no?
I
Far
could
enough.
see it. I couldn't hear it, but I could see it. And so I would run straight down this one street that would take you toward the strip. And knowing that I'm not going to go the 10 miles, because, yeah, so maybe I'm saying it wrong because from my house to where I did run and then back. Okay. So there and back was like 8 miles. Going to the street that I would stop at, when I would deal with all those things in my head that you just described, I just would learn to relax in my stride and imagine that I'm going all the way to the stratosphere, which was way, down
Mhm.
yonder.
So aim further than your current goal and
Mhm,
turn your current goal into a molehill rather than a
mhm,
mountain.
mhm.
Mm.
And it would cause me to relax in my stride, and I just knew that, okay, this is my, my current situation, and it's not one where I'm looking for a finish line or one where I'm telling myself that, I'm going to stop eventually and walk, but basically just stay inside of a flow, a stride that was a flow. And then the same thing when it was time to turn around and I didn't have the stratosphere as that visual, I made it the mountain
Hmm.
down yonder because that's Vegas and there's mountains all, we were in a valley. So yeah, just kind of aiming for something that it was like I knew I wasn't really going to get there, but then when I got to my real destination, it was like, now I'm just I can relax now.
That's so calming hearing you talk about that. And that's what we talk about with manifesting, like
Mhm,
moving beyond, okay, well, I really want this house. I want this house. I want this house. I want this job.
mhm.
Well, first of all, don't manifest from a space of I want.
Yeah,
Um, and then, okay, well, what's it going to be like once I have the house? What will
yeah,
my goals be then?
right.
And for my self building, how will I live? How will I behave? What is this house going to represent for me? And then the life doesn't end at the house. It's not like
Mhm.
end curtain.
Mhm. I love how Neville Goddard always said that he would literally place himself in that thing that he wanted to manifest. So when he wanted to leave the army, he, um, even though they um, rejected his request for to leave, he, instead of accepting that, he was like, he told himself in his mind, I do not accept that. So when he went to bed that night, he said, instead of being in my bunker, I imagined myself at home in my bed next to my wife with our baby next to us in bed. He said, I did not sleep there that night. I slept in my own bed. And I slept in my own bed for the next, I think he said like 3 or 4 nights. And then eventually the officer called him back in and said, do you still want to leave? And they let him leave.
Wow. I like that. Um, that helps me because it's a known visual.
Mhm.
Like, so I know you've talked about, and he talks about, so with my house, manifesting what would it feel like to be in the house and to sleep in that house. And that approach in that way doesn't work for me
Mhm.
because it's an unknown.
Yeah.
The building of the room
Yeah.
is not how I'm wired.
Yeah.
I like it in that way because it's like the relationships. I lean more into the relationships. What will our relationships be like? Okay, well, it will mean that our finances are in a certain place. Okay, so
Mhm.
how will we be able to show up for each other in
Yeah.
a more connected space? And when I lean into it that way, those things are already starting to happen.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
And then I notice it and I appreciate it.
Yeah. That is so funny. And I was wondering why was this stuff coming to me this week, and now I realize it's because of this conversation. So, um, when I was younger, when I was in my like fresh out of high school and then on into my 20s, my confidence was just so sky high about like jobs and things of that nature. I never felt like whatever job I would go for, I wasn't going to get. I always knew that whatever job was just there at my beck and call. And I was, whatever job I applied for, I did in fact receive. And so I don't know where that came from. It was like, where did that kind of, where, like, I guess it was just, it's just one of those things sometimes that we're created with, I think, because of
Yeah.
our purpose work.
Yeah. No,
And I
we
didn't
all come
know it
with
until
that
now.
confidence and then it gets
Yeah,
lost. It gets like hit buried.
it
Yeah.
does. Or like there's some trauma that causes it to, but so I started to notice after learning about things like what he described as, sleeping at home with his wife and child, that I don't do it as much as I used to when I was younger back there. And I need to implement that again. Hi, Mad
Hi,
Max.
Max.
Hi.
Mad Max. I don't know your real name.
She said she loves that story. But yeah, like it's amazing when you actually start to just feel into, because it was like make the connection. I guess what I'm saying is I always knew I would have whatever I went for, like the
Yeah.
job, right? So the same thing with like a home or finances or whatever. And it's like once you reach that level of knowing rather than wishing, that's the limiting belief that I am the hurdle that I'm crossing now, which is why I'm not like a multimillionaire right now. No, like I'm learning to stop wanting and to start accepting like I did back then.
Yeah.
Like this is my purpose work. I don't need to, in this headspace, feel that I need to charge for every little thing that I do, because that's not really coming from the place where it's supposed to come from. For now, I'm just giving all of me, following all of the little breadcrumbs that Spirit is giving me as Spirit is leading me to and prepping me because a lot of this is prep work too,
Mhm.
to be literally walking in the full capacity of my purpose.
Mhm.
So once I'm, you know, all together when it comes to the prep work, because I can see some of the little things, you know. I can see that there are like
Oh,
little,
that's why this hasn't happened yet, because I needed to learn this. I'm
yeah.
grateful I learned this now and not that. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, definitely.
You just said,
So
like, I'm gonna be my full-on self right now, which is that I have, like, 4 reactions to what you
yeah,
just like, that whole experience, and I want to list them all.
yeah, go on, go on. It's
Okay.
gonna be helpful for
So
everybody.
the first thing that I had an awareness moment is me embodying you, or me leaning in, and
Uh-huh.
I'll tell you exactly when it happened. You
Yeah.
said it was at the very beginning when you led in and said, "I noticed when I was a kid," and
Yeah.
then I felt myself step into your space. I'm like, "Wait, wait, wait,
Oh,
wait, stay back." And I stepped into the space from a space of excitement. I
yeah,
want to hear what she has to say.
yeah,
I want to listen. I want to hear her.
yeah,
And so it was like a rush. And this
yeah,
actually ties to the third thing I wanted to say. It was like a rush to receive it rather
yeah.
than let it come to me here.
Oh,
The next one was when you're talking about that we all believe this, like,
mhm,
as teenagers and or as
mhm.
earlier, depending on
Yeah.
when it came. I just had this
Mhm.
conversation with my 11-year-old, and
Oh,
she started asking about, it was this beautiful conversation. She was asking about, okay, when I start to drive, right? How,
mhm.
when I get my car, when I get my license. And I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay,
I
car
know.
and license are two separate things. And we had the conversation. I could tell that it wasn't like being received what I was saying. And I said, okay,
Mhm.
let's talk about what the process is to get the license. Step, step,
Yeah.
step, step, step. You drive our car. And then she's like, so I'm not going to get a car when I'm 16 or 17. And the mind in me, I caught myself and I said, well, I don't, I completely shifted because it was like, this is a moment where someone's dreams get crushed. I said, if you're
Mm.
feeling that certainty more than I am right now, it
Mhm.
could be that you are aware energetically that it is happening and
Uh-huh.
that I, in my current financial understanding, am not willing to commit to it. So
Mhm.
I'm going to release that understanding that I have. I've got goosebumps.
Mhm.
I'm going to
Mhm.
that you will get the exact car at the exact time that you need it,
Mm. I
and that
love
our
it.
finances then will be different than they are now. And it was a way to honor her
Mhm.
expectations, because part of me could have and did for a little bit go, that's just what you learn from, because she said all the books and all the shows indicate
Mhm.
that I'm going to get this. And I was like, yeah, but it could be that way. It could be that way. And you might have a better sense of it than I do right now. So
Mhm.
that was super cool, of like, so
Yeah.
from the parent perspective of here's how you don't ruin that in someone else.
Yeah.
And then the third thing, which is really funny, and I was like, am I gonna tell this story? And I think I'm gonna tell this story.
I know it's gonna be funny.
And I'm gonna tell it from a place of word choice,
Yeah.
because when I close caption this,
Yeah.
AI is gonna flag some of the things I say.
Okay.
Is that word a flaggable word? I think even the scientific word is a flaggable word. So I'm
Um,
being with my husband,
mhm.
being with my husband,
Yeah.
um, and how that usually concludes.
Yeah.
That conclusion process for me
Yeah.
was first discovered for myself at my
Mhm.
own hands.
Okay. You're a word wizard. Oh
and
god.
and furthermore, it had a level of tension to it,
Mhm.
because for me it was about getting to that point.
Yeah.
So like, come on, come on, come on, come on, let's make it happen.
Yeah.
It's a lot of tension like in my body.
Yeah.
And I've been leaning, like, with the running,
Mhm.
I was leaning into, like, letting that go and letting
Yeah.
the air, like, the breath come on its own, the body knows.
Mhm.
And so I decided like I wanted to bring more of that into that dynamic with my
Yeah.
husband.
Yeah.
Of the, like, I am safe, I'm
Uh-huh.
relaxed, it is going to come to me, I am going to be in a receiving space.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because he noticed from his perspective,
Yeah.
and he remarked it at a moment where I had relaxed even further.
Yeah.
And it allowed more connection all
Yeah.
around.
Mhm.
And I just thought that that was really cool because,
Mhm.
um it was a deeply ingrained habit for me
Mhm.
because of the circumstances of how I introduced myself to these realities and these experiences,
Mhm.
and I could have just accepted that as how things were,
Mhm.
and I didn't. It was my decision to, like, how could I be more relaxed here? And it's part of the bigger lesson of, like, allowing things to come to me, not
Mhm.
like we talked about earlier, not being so, like, forceful with getting to the destination, not
Yeah.
leaning into your energy to receive your message, but really staying in all moments in who I am and
Mhm.
trusting that it is coming to me and that I can just
Mhm.
relax. And so it was a game for me of being,
Mhm.
like, as relaxed as I could be
Yeah.
through the entire experience,
Mhm.
and the feedback afterward was that that will be something I will continue to pursue because it
Yeah.
made it more enjoyable all around.
Yeah. You know what? I think a lot of women have that issue. I wouldn't be surprised if what you're saying right now is a new concept for a lot of women, because what is the common denominator when it comes to that is that they usually have a harder time getting to that place, right?
So there's more of like a focus on it. Yeah, and I will say I was not one of those women. I very easily could. And then it
Mhm.
was also like, I wanna get there as quickly as possible because this is gonna put me to sleep and I wanna get to sleep.
Yeah, I think that it makes me wonder because I remember going through that exact same experience. I remember that. And sometimes I'm going to say in my own experience, so that happened for me in my 20s. And then um you kind of like grow away from that for there are so many different reasons. She said, "Good for you guys." For
Yes.
like there could be so many different contributing factors for different people, but I do believe that there are times where you fall away from knowing and remembering that that's, what you want to be doing
Mhm.
is letting go,
Oh my goodness, yeah. And then
right?
that ties to the manifestation. Do people know? Do other people know that, like, when you get to that point, that is pure potent energy? You can set
I don't
intentions to
think so.
manifest when you get to that point.
I don't think so. I tried putting it in one of my posts.
So I've
I don't
like
think they
for
knew.
me, I want more of the connection. So I'm like, more of
Yeah.
this, please, is like
Yeah.
my intention when I get there. And
Well, we need to do a show on that. No, seriously, because I don't think people know that. And the only reason I knew it was because Neville Goddard said it in one of his videos.
you alluded to it with me a
Yeah,
couple like
and I
before
just saw
GI.
it again. I just saw it again. So
Wait,
I'm gonna
where's the breath?
send it to you.
Why don't you talk about the like for me, what I remember with you, and I'll just say I want to make one physical comparison and then I'll
Mhm.
pass it to you.
Okay.
When I'm in that more relaxed space, that's when I feel it like from my feet, right? The bottom of my feet. Like it's a
Mhm.
more full body experience when it's in that relaxed
Definitely.
space because there's chakras in the bottom of the feet.
That's why they say the toes.
Mhm. 'Cause it's like and then that curling too, like, that's a
Yeah.
control, like, that's a
Mhm.
spasm. That's a
Yep.
wave, you're catching a wave.
Mhm.
So the video that I remember you when you were talking about this video, that's when I made the connection in my mind, and maybe it's not what
Mhm.
you're talking about,
Mhm.
where you were talking about, okay, if you wanna visualize for somebody and then you do the breath work. Is that the one that you wanna
Mhm.
talk about?
I don't remember that, but yeah, let's talk
Where
about
where you said, like, you Neville Goddard talks about, like, breathing and getting
it.
yourself
Mhm.
and you get yourself worked up into a state, and I'm like, "Oh, that's the state you're getting yourself worked up into."
Oh, yeah, but Yeah, no, I don't remember that one, but I do know that because it's not like you're literally getting yourself worked up. Well, yeah, now I do remember what you're saying now because it is the kind of thing where you are in your mind, you're yeah, you're right. So it's not, you're not literally, it's not like the type of effort that it is when it comes to the thing that we were talking about where you're feeling a lot of energy in that sense. You're I'm probably not wording this right.
You're doing great.
Okay. So, but like, in the sense that in your mind, you are in the place that you want to be. Because once you get to that place and then you decide that this is what I want to manifest while I am in this location mentally, that's where the, how did he word it? It's almost like that's where the conception takes place.
Conception, and then he said, like, breathe and get yourself in a breathing pattern until you're in a state of
Mm.
pure bliss.
Yeah.
And so to me, the way that I
Mhm.
perceived that was that that would like, kind of like the breathing, and then the breathing gets, like, heavier and deeper, and then, like, there's
Mhm.
a very similar trajectory.
Mhm.
And maybe it's not physically felt in the same places, but,
Mhm.
like, if you were to take the breath work track from that partner experience and then overlay
Mhm.
it into this meditation, it's the breath does the same trajectory.
Yeah. And so that was even a different experience from the one that I initially heard from him, because the one that I initially heard from him was that once you have made a certain connection, you can't change the manifestation. It's just like the sperm fertilizing the egg. And now you
It's
have
done.
yeah, you can't change
I
what
love
you
that.
started.
Yeah.
It's already there now. It's manifested into all these cells getting ready to expand into another human being. And I love that. Like, that's so amazing. So there are several ways, several different ways to look at it. But yeah, definitely also too the energy when you are doing the breathing and all of that. Like, because the emotions, those emotions are the things that are the magnet that draws the manifestation to you. Because remember, and Kay reminded us last week that our thoughts are electric and our emotions are magnetic. So when you have you start off with the thought, right? You start off with those thoughts, and then the emotions that go along with those thoughts are the things that magnetize what you want toward you.
And then you even had it a step further, which was doing this on behalf of other people
Mhm,
intensifies it.
mhm,
Um, and then doing it in a way where you're not counter manifesting for them. So it's
mhm.
about the verbiage of like
Yeah,
may they receive what they truly want in
yeah.
aspects that are what they truly are, who they truly are, allow that to come forward.
It's my
So that
favorite thing to do.
yeah,
That's why prayer is so effective.
I
People
loved
don't
your
recognize.
post on that.
Yeah, right. Like,
Yeah,
people don't recognize that and then they have like these prayer warrior groups, and that's why they're so powerful.
it's
Because
because
you're
it's bound
literally
up.
manifesting for those that you love and those who need it. And they're like, hey, I need you guys to pray for me. And you'll see it on Facebook a lot. Hey, I need my prayer warriors to come together and pray. My mother is going through this, or a family member is going through that. And so they're asking for you to manifest for them.
Yeah, that used to trigger me a lot.
Did it?
Oh, when people would post,
Yeah.
like, thoughts and prayers, I'm like, "Have you even tried?" Like, "You're asking from me?"
Yeah.
Like, it felt like and even in that shared community that you and I met in, where other people where I knew they were doing the work, like, if people ask, like, "I need your guys' thoughts right now," but I'm like,
No.
"Yeah, but have you done the work? The work is your job, the
Correct.
work is not my job." Like, I've put
Correct.
up walls. I'm like, "How dare
Yeah.
you ask me?" And someone on a coaching call reminded me, "It costs you nothing to send love every time you see that."
Yeah.
And so now like, because for me, I was like, "Oh, they're asking this, I have to go all in. I have to do the meditation. No, I'm not
Oh,
gonna do that. That takes 20 minutes in the closet. I've got
mhm.
other stuff to do." And, like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna go all in. and turning
Mhm.
that into they're asking for thoughts and prayers, I can absolutely send love your direction.
Yeah,
Done. And make it like a moment thing, but that
yeah,
moment is still more than how dare they?
yeah. And it's like really quickly you can open up an angelic portal just really quickly. But and then too, oh wow, there's a little bird looking in at me. Aw. I wish I can turn it around. But yeah, so like the other thing is too is sometimes when we're weak, we can't
Yeah.
do exactly what we want to do. And sometimes the situation is the thing that weakens us, the thing that we're praying for help with. May be the very thing that causes us to lose those capabilities to see clear and think straight. And maybe we're a little bit depressed, or we're just vibing a little lower than we typically would. And so now our electric thoughts are not as potent. So yeah, I love that. we're all created to be interdependent in a sense, in a way, right? We're like we're all like little puzzle pieces that make up the large composite almost. And then but we still, can have our own individual space, and we all still have our own free will and all that. Like it's like a nice, beautiful arrangement of like a movie or something theatrical.
Your puzzle analogy,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
exactly what I was trying to ask for earlier, how to explain it.
yeah.
There's a lot of toxic "we are the same" in
Mhm.
spiritual talk. "We are the same,
Yeah.
we're the same, I am you."
Mhm.
And like, yes, and, you
Yeah.
know, bring a
Yeah,
little improv.
yeah,
Yes, we are of the same puzzle, and we are each a very distinct, unique piece, and the worst thing that you would want is a bunch of corner pieces because that doesn't make a puzzle.
mhm,
Like, you literally need this aspect of this puzzle to be represented in this area so that it can go there and fill that void.
mhm,
And so it's about recognizing that we're the same, like, so I don't wanna hurt you because 'cause I'm hurting me energetically, and also I don't expect you to have the same thoughts and beliefs as me because we're different. So it's
mhm.
that balance, and that puzzle did that come to you, or had you heard that before?
Um, I guess it came to me a while ago because I for a little while now I've been looking at it that way, as like a puzzle. Like
I
one big beautiful picture, but all those pieces.
I think that'll help people who are watching this to really appreciate our perspective, that we're absolutely not trying to get people into a place where they're thinking and feeling exactly what we are.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the conversation last week about the sine waves, like, we
Mhm.
don't want the exact alignment. I want you to be in your alignment, and then
Yeah.
we'll play, and
Mhm.
that's where the fun is. Like,
Yep.
you be in your alignment, I'll be in my alignment, and then we're gonna play together, and that's
Yeah.
where the magic happens.
I posted that. That is such a beautiful, and I know that people can appreciate that, the sine wave discussion.
I wanted to cut it, like, clip it, and
Yeah.
then, it didn't feel right this week, and it's because 'cause
Mhm.
I've broken a belief today, I realized, which is
Oh,
that I still am allowed to clip the previous episodes even after we filmed another episode.
yes.
Isn't that
Yes.
silly? And I think I've got clips from, like, the first episodes that I wanna go back. I don't know, we'll see how it goes. We'll
Yeah,
see
no,
what
I just realized that in the moment you were saying it. Yeah, like, because when you started saying it, I'm like, "Oh, she can still clip it." Despite the fact that we're on now.
mhm.
And we're gonna have new clips.
And that was from the it tied all back to "Do you want the wave that's really coming?" Tying
Yeah,
it all back to the, "Oh, it can't too much can't come because then it's gonna be more work. I'll get behind if I haven't
yeah,
clipped it before Sunday. I can't be that big because then it'll take more of my time." Like, mm-mm,
yeah.
mm-mm.
Always, always whatever feels right and whatever feels good, and that's why it's so nice that you just had that realization now. Like, "Oh, I can do the pass if I want and
And I
still.
can post them out of order. Ooh, the chronological person in me is like, "Ugh,
I know. Our OCD.
how will they appreciate our beauty unless they know that it was this and then this and then this."
Yeah.
Oh, my that's so funny. It never
Yeah.
does this, but I just got a tag, but it
Yeah.
came with the audio doo doo doo,
Oh, wow, that's so cute.
the spiritual confirmation.
You wanna hear something interesting? So, I last night, I started oh, there's Joseph Rodriguez. Others think and feel what we think and feel. That's what his latest video is. But and it's Neville Goddard, it says. He tagged it with Neville Goddard. But anyway, last night I had started doing a lot of praying about well, really, I mean, I've been doing this for a while now, and it's I'm starting to recognize the answers that I have been receiving, that they are in fact answers to the direct question that I've been asking about me, about myself, and different people who are bringing me certain types of information. And what am I to do with it? Like, how do I, you know, how does this add up to who I am and where I come from? And so last night I received this monumental vision. And I talk about a lot, about when I was little. My mom used to get so embarrassed because I would always it wasn't like a racial thing at all, not at all, but she would get embarrassed because I would say, "That's my dad." And it was like this big statue. We were in a mall. It was a big statue of an Indian. And I was just this little girl who didn't know, I literally no one could tell me that that was not my father. And we don't look well, some people actually do tell me that I look, kind of like the Native American Indians. But my dad, I don't know, like he didn't have long hair or anything, or the two braids or none of that. But it was something, I don't know, I think it was spiritual. No one could tell me that that wasn't him. And so oh my gosh, like I'm getting all these confirmations. There's a big grasshopper outside my window. It's like a spirit. I feel like that's like almost like a little spirit animal. But
I wanna watch
anyway,
you tell the story.
yeah, he's just so cute the way he's walking very slowly. So anyway, I always knew because of, the things that he told me about our relatives who were Cherokee. So that and I started really understanding the origin of something called have you ever heard of hoodoo?
I didn't hear the first sound that you said.
Hoodoo.
Only as like a no, not in
Yeah,
any
I hadn't either. I hadn't either. So I heard about it and I did just a little bit of research after praying because this is still continued prayer, right? Like along with everything that I have been asking about. And I learned, oh gosh, I don't always get goosebumps. I get all these different other feelings. And I'm like, I feel my crown.
your head is glowing now. Does anyone else see it?
Really?
Like, there's like a white light around your face has just gotten whiter.
Wow.
Like, from here up.
Yeah, like
Mhm.
that's crazy. So, and I feel the energy. I feel like I feel an energy ball right now.
Mm.
So, come to find out, and then I've already known about some of the mixture on my mom's side because they're very fair skinned, and I know that we have European in our in that side of my family. I learned that it comes from the African practice of voodoo, where it originated, which is not necessarily you know, what I always thought, which was just like only a Haitian thing, but that originated way back when, right? So, but I learned that along with when, you know, some of us were over here in this country and we started blending things with like Native Americans and also Europeans. And blending those things created something called hoodoo. And I'm like, this is amazing to me because I've always known, and I think that, and maybe AJ, you can let me know how you feel about this, but I think that when we learned from Oliver some of our gifts, I felt like these things, like Akashic records, were already ingrained in us. He just called attention to it. And I feel like you guys are like my kin almost, spiritually speaking, like
Yeah.
you, Christopher,
Yeah.
because of
Absolutely.
our base in Akashic, yeah, energy. So I don't, I don't know if you saw me light up whenever you talk about your Celtic origin, I
I did.
always light up. I love, oh gosh, our origins is everything. But our origins is who we are, you know? So like for me, when I learned about all of this, I realized, and I don't think a lot of people know this, AJ, that we all have our internal map and we don't always need um, physical objects in order to tap in. We don't always need to be doing something physical. It accentuates or it even helps, but it doesn't mean you need a crystal or a what is that thing called that you burn?
You went like this, and I thought it was like a toy, like the little whistle toy.
I know.
You don't need that either. Those things are obnoxious.
I'm so funny
Um,
because I don't even use that stuff.
like Palo Santo or
Yep,
sage.
exactly. That. Like all those things. Like we are those things.
Yeah.
We're the crystal. We're the, the all those methods that people use when they're doing rituals and things.
And
We are the ritual.
I'm gonna go a step further,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna say something that I think I've only said in private, and now I'm gonna say
Okay.
it online.
Okay.
And it might trigger some people
It's
because I'm
okay.
white.
It's okay.
And I encourage people to feel into the words that I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like, don't
Yeah.
even see it being said from this face.
Yeah.
If that holds you back.
Hmm.
When you talk about our origins,
Hmm.
I believe in my experiences, there's multiple origins for each of us, right? So I
Hmm.
have I have the family DNA running through me from the parents that I have in this lifetime. I
Hmm.
have the lifetimes and locations of my seminal and monumental lifetime experiences. So we might call that an origin. If I had a Palladian life or if I had a life somewhere else, if I believe that, then that's going to go into who I am. I have multiple lifetimes on this planet, which means I have been a Native American individual. That is something that I identify with for me in my journey. And I've had thousands of lifetimes, so I'm sure I've been in all different parts of this planet in lifetimes. So when my journey is about discovering my origins, and it's not even about origins from an ego space, it's more about calling back to me the things that appeal to me or that resonate with me. It might be like I was looking at Etsy shirts and clothes the other day, and there was like a Mexican, and it said Mexican, right? It said Mexican, traditional Mexican embroidery. And so there's all this like baggage as a white individual right now. And I'm not saying I'm struggling, just listen.
Hmm.
Listen.
Hmm.
There is a public discourse about what each of us culturally is or is not allowed to do. What is appropriation? What is not? Is it done honorably?
Hmm.
But like if I shed all of that
Hmm.
and I'm going with what feels right to me, if that traditional Mexican shirt makes me feel good,
Mhm.
Who is to say that that is not me reclaiming an aspect of a previous lifetime that I have had where I did not look like how I currently look?
Mhm.
If I'm doing that from a place of love and I'm vibing high,
Yep.
why wouldn't I lean into that?
Right.
And this is not how people typically talk about it, because typically
Mhm.
it's about a well, typically I think one of the biggest problems is that people are not making those choices from a place of love. And whenever the choice is not made from a place of love, you get something completely different. But if all of us like shed, if all of us just was like, I trust you're making that choice from a place of love.
Yeah.
And I trust that if you're not making it from a place of love, you're creating that imprint on your own soul to deal with. And it's not
Mhm.
my job to manage it.
Right.
Like, it frees things up. Like, do you
Mhm.
know how many different thoughts and beliefs I've had about the idea of me having like pigtails? Right?
Mm.
Like, first it's
Yeah.
like, "Oh, that's too juvenile, that's too childlike," and seeing Kay doing it has been, like, really inspiring. And then
Mhm.
it's like, "Okay, well, what like, is that a thing that white adults do? No."
Mhm.
Like, typically, no. It's a thing that other cultures do. Am I
Mhm.
dishonoring? What are people gonna think? And it's, like, all these different things, and
Mhm.
then coming down to, I wanna play with it.
Mhm.
I wanna play with it, and it's play.
Mhm.
I'm gonna do it.
Yes, please do. Please do. Do like honor your feelings.
And it goes even further than that. Like,
Mhm.
even I've had pauses of not teaching history to my children,
Mhm.
wanting to make sure that I'm in this space, because now it's like, I'm not going to condemn any decision that anyone in history has made, because who's to say that wasn't me in a previous lifetime? And
Mhm.
if I'm condemning a previous version me, that current version of me is actually supposed to be healing, I'm actually perpetuating a pain cycle of judgment
Mhm.
and guilt and shame, rather than, okay, well, that was a choice that you made. What can I do to release it? What can I do to elevate it?
Mhm.
What can I do to bring more love into the world?
Yeah.
And putting my lens of interpretation of guilt or shame on what you did,
Mhm.
I don't know where you were in that place.
Mhm.
So I could potentially be doing harm to myself and my origins of my, because there's the ancestral DNA that's in my physical body, and then
Mhm.
there's the lifetime DNA that's in my energy.
Mhm.
And so my job, I believe, is to honor all aspects of this.
Mhm.
And yeah, and
Yes.
we have a comment. I think we have to listen to our inner voice. Yes, thank you. That is
Yes.
like core. I do believe in reincarnation, and I certainly
Mhm.
don't think we've been the same person in each life. The more open
Um,
we are to the more stigmas disappear.
oh,
Yes.
wasn't that perfectly said?
Thank you for summarizing.
Yeah, it releases a lot of pressure for me too because I was just having this conversation with myself this morning about how I feel that remember I told you about my neighbor? She wants me to like yeah, and I'm like I still have to have that conversation with her. I haven't had that conversation with her yet. And then she sent a message saying that she was inviting me to march with her over the young lady who was murdered from her home country. And I'm like, I need to have that conversation with her because I firmly believe in everything that you just stated and what Mia Moore is saying. And I want to make sure that I am everything to everyone. I view myself as a counterpart of God, the way we all are. But like, even though we all are, not everybody sees themselves as that. But I see myself as that. And so, because of that, I love people. I love all people. And so, I don't go out and march, so to speak. Like, I do what I can from a level above all of that stuff where I am putting out the emotions that magnetize the manifestations that we need. And so when I am doing that, I attract the people who are like you and I and have the thoughts like Mia Moore here. Like that's what I need more of in my life rather than attracting events. that are going to cause more pain, perpetuate more suffering, make it difficult on I have two Black boys. I don't want to call anything into our energetic spaces. Their dad is with us now. He also is Black. I don't want to call anything into his space, you know? I just want love in our space. I want love, and I don't discriminate against anything or anyone except for bad energy. That I don't do.
And I think, just to underline it,
Yeah.
that this does not mean that you're condemning people who are making those
Right.
choices to make the marches,
Oh
because
my God.
we each have a puzzle piece.
Yes.
And if it resonates for someone and it
Yes,
feels good for them, absolutely do it. We need you to do it.
that's right.
It
Because
just means that it's
everybody
not for
plays
you
a
to do
role.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. And I've said that before, and I'm glad you brought that up for me. Thank you, because people might not get that because I didn't say it just now, but I've definitely said it before. Everybody has a role to play, you know? And whatever their role is, just because it's not my role, I'm not going to judge them for that. But I also don't want them to judge me for mine, you know? Like, don't put pressure on me because of my role. And we all have free will. So never would I say, no, I'm not going to march with you, but here's what I want you to do. That's not how it works.
There's such a I think I told you that the way that I am introducing history to my children
Yeah.
is through this like course I'm gonna build with my kids,
Yeah.
and it originated with like fundamentally know your rights,
Yes.
and I was using the Pledge of Allegiance as
Mhm.
a discourse to like I wanted to intentionally introduce a topic that people don't agree on,
Mhm.
and it's okay whatever decision you make.
Mhm.
And I'm gonna say it's okay, whatever decision, but now in this
Mhm.
in this forum, not with my
Mhm.
children, I'm actually gonna share the interpretation I have.
Okay.
So it's the should the Pledge of Allegiance be mandated, right? And like all
Mhm.
of the legal case history around public entities and where that decision has ended up, which is that
Yeah.
you have the freedom to not do it.
Mhm.
Um, but the materials that I've curated for the kids when I present this to the middle schoolers are
Mhm.
very respectful thought pieces from people on both opinions,
Mhm.
be it veterans, high school teachers, immigrants who are
Mhm.
for and against it,
Mhm.
Black people who are for or against it, right? Given the
Mhm.
current cultural context of what does that flag represent? Is it representing me?
Mhm.
Um, and what I have discovered in evaluating all of these materials is that at the very, very core, the pattern I see
Mhm.
is that there's a choice,
Mhm.
which is do you stand for it?
Mhm.
Do you stand up? Do you
Mhm.
recite it? And then there's the interpretation of what that choice represents.
Yep.
I'm going to interpret what it represents.
Mhm.
And there are people who do a very eloquent job
Mhm.
at telling everybody what that choice represents
Mhm.
for themselves.
Mhm.
And there are other people who do a very great job at um, are like saying what that choice represents for everyone who makes that choice.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and it can be eloquently written, it can be beautiful, it can be thoughtful, it could be respectful, but at the core, what is happening, I notice, is
Mhm.
someone is identifying what that choice means for everybody else.
Mhm.
It is disrespectful if you don't do that. Well, how do you know? Have you asked me? Have you
Mhm.
investigated my intentions for this choice? No,
Right.
you've imposed your interpretation on my choice.
Mhm.
And that could go for any political contentious topic. Is it
Mhm.
comes down to I have decided what my values are. I have decided what a person with these values shows up to be.
Mhm.
And now I'm going to be mad because that person over there is showing up in a different way, which means they don't hold my values, which
Mhm.
means I'm offended because they're not respecting my values.
Yeah.
And it's like all of this like
Mhm.
over interpretation.
Mhm.
Um, and so I do come squarely on the side of make your choice.
Yeah.
Make your choice, whatever choice you make, if it feels right for you, good.
Yeah.
And my role as an instructor that I take very, very seriously is to not impose my interpretation of what that means to the
Mhm.
kids who are reading all these thought pieces. I
Yeah.
want to allow them, maybe they internalize to be the child or the individual that says, I think everyone should do it. I think that
Mhm.
people don't do it are disrespecting the soldiers, and I think that they all need to do it.
Mhm.
And being the facilitator that allows the individual
Yeah.
to take that stand.
Yeah. That's really that's a lot, AJ. You're very brave. And I got so excited when you told me that you were talking about doing that, the history and all that. I love that you're doing that. I think it's a beautiful thing. And I feel that it's something that you're ordained to do, you know? I think that there need to be more people like that in the world. And I want to ask you this question, like, and you just explained a lot of it, but like from this point of view, how do you see yourself um dealing with the higher dimension side of it? Because I feel like that's what we all do. Um, and that's where people like to find fault with us because they don't see that we're looking at things from a higher
Mm,
dimension and higher frequencies from
okay,
God frequency.
okay.
And so they tend to criticize our choices that we do make here in the 3D. So like how do you feel about that as far as like the being someone who may implement that new history course for the children?
Oh, I like that question. That's a good thought question.
Yeah.
So it's a couple things.
Mhm.
One, so trust comes into it,
Mhm.
um, and holding space that my intention is that the container that these homeschool kids participate in, which by the way, it's not just children. Did I tell you it's children and parents?
Oh,
Like it's
I don't remember, but
it's
that's
fundamentally like
you may have told me
yeah, I took a picture of it, so it was in a
that. Okay.
picture. It was
Okay.
like make connecting with people who disagree with you.
Mm.
That's the course title. And so all the parents who want their children who are gonna opt into this, and I haven't shared it publicly, but the
Yeah.
kinds of parents this is gonna attract are gonna
Uh-huh.
be parents who want their children to be raised in this way.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, well, parents, it starts in the home. You got to lead by example and be comfortable being vulnerable and on display, showing up in this way, so that your kids can see how to learn from this in the household beyond this class. Like the
Yeah.
history is basically a vehicle because it's homeschooling and we need to meet certain like course curriculum
Right.
requirements. It could really be any topic.
Mhm.
And okay, so how do I see it from the higher? It's like it like keeps coming in. There's more.
Yeah.
A couple things.
Mhm.
I'm holding space that each person is showing up as they truly are. So I
Mm.
don't know what that is.
Mhm.
So if that means that they disagree with me in that moment, if that's who they truly are, perfect. They're honoring who they are.
Mhm.
Another thing that I think you're getting at when you say the criticize is
Mhm.
loving someone who might on the surface have a very atrocious opinion. Like
Mhm.
if I could think of like the most atrocious opinion,
Mhm.
and these are children we're talking about, not someone who's like really entrenched and digging in.
Yeah.
It could be a middle schooler expressing a belief that
Mhm.
perhaps might align with political parties or
Mhm.
historical war teams
Mhm.
that we'd be like, oh no, you can't say that. You're believing with this, right? But like,
Mhm.
but like seeing from the higher dimension that like maybe they in that moment are going to vocalize that opinion because it's going to lead to a process of unfolding events that have to happen so
Mhm.
that everyone collectively is rising in vibration.
Mhm.
So, like, I'm not going to shut down someone for saying something that they truly honestly align with in that moment because I
Mhm.
don't have fear that they're going to align with it forever. I don't
Mhm.
have fear that that's who they are forever. And I believe that their voice of God in that moment basically kind of sometimes maybe poking the bear.
Mhm. You wouldn't be called to this if it weren't for all of that. So the fact that you trust the process, wow, yeah. if you weren't someone who trusted the process, then none of it would even be, I don't even think you would have had the desire to do this.
Like, it would be shut down too early, like, "Oh, we can't say that." Like,
Mhm.
okay, so, we were even reading a book together that was about a culture that we hadn't, experienced, and they were talking about, like, respectful burial practices. It's a fiction
Mm.
story.
Mhm.
And the way that the respectful burial practices unfolded, I was reading it out loud to my daughters. So
Mhm.
it was comical how it unfolded because my daughters had no idea what the next words were gonna be,
Yeah.
and they are familiar with certain, um, like, burial practices. They're familiar with the ones they've experienced. So for them, I'm reading along, I'm saying things, and then I'm saying something that they've never heard of or thought of or considered as a practice, and so they laugh,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
And so, like, I'm pausing, I'm like, "Yeah, I totally appreciate why you're laughing. That's something you
Yeah.
haven't heard of. It
Yeah.
surprised you.
Yeah.
You had no idea it was gonna lead in that direction."
Yeah.
You know? It's okay to laugh in this moment where you're discovering that this is, like, it's the surprise factor.
Yes.
Okay, and then moving forward, this is not something like you girls understand, and of course they understood,
Right.
and I said it to reiterate it, that this isn't something that we would laugh at in a different
Mhm.
setting. You wouldn't go around saying, "Hey, guess what this culture does for their
Right.
practices,"
Right.
right? And they honored that, of course they did, but
Mhm.
allowing the space for the initial reaction is part of the process.
Yeah. That's a perfect example. Yeah. And you're their mom, so of course you would, bring them into alignment. That's how I feel about when this the second you told me that you were thinking about doing a history class, that's the same feeling I got. Like, oh, she's gonna be able to bring these people in alignment without knowing, you know what I mean? Not necessarily you, but them. They're not really understanding that
That
they're in good
energetically,
hands.
that's what's happening.
Yeah, they're in
Yeah.
good hands.
Yeah. Oh,
And
thank you.
oh,
And
yeah.
because it's done from a pure space, I'm not it's
Mhm,
not manipulation. It's
mhm,
like a safe space with
mhm,
intentions, and then it's gonna
mhm.
attract the people who are ready for it. And
Yes.
then they're the ones that are making the choice. I'm not like puppet
Mhm.
mastering it. I want
Yeah.
so when you mentioned the bold and trust the process, because now to turn it
Mhm.
on you, I've done a lot of
Uh-huh.
talking and my ego is
Sure.
saying, stop talking. Um, I know that you trust the process too. Do
Yeah.
you want to share? Are there examples that come easily to mind of instances where you were like, this is not a choice that looks good on paper, but I have to do it? And then you felt good making either you felt good while you were making it or you felt good after because you appreciated where it led to?
I think it has a lot to do with me and my stance on, my community. I grew up where my mother was extremely, well, in comparison to others who are like very like, pro black. She wasn't as extreme as them, but she was very much so. And I don't know where she got me from because it was so funny. It had to do with my religion. In my religion, they pounded it in our heads to be neutral, take a neutral stance on all of this because in the religion, it was all about just only relying on God's kingdom. That's it. God's kingdom was the answer to everything. So even though I don't still practice a lot of those beliefs, that is still something that I very much believe in because for me, that preceded the religion. Like, that's just how it is. Like, I won't necessarily call it like God's kingdom these days, but I just know that for me, all roads lead to one thing, which is the fact that we all have that origin in common. That is a common denominator for humankind. So I have had a hard time throughout my life, even still now today. Sometimes people on social media will expect you to think and behave differently. And so it becomes pretty heavy. It can be pretty heavy. Um, and I just have to, I rather than give them a whole rundown or breakdown on how I feel and what my stance is, I just continue to remain neutral the same way I'm going to have that conversation with my dear neighbor. She's such a beautiful person inside and out. And you can tell that her love is genuine, just like ours, right? But I do know that I can sense that it's going to be somewhat hurtful for her because I can sense that she's been somewhat hurt already by my lack of response thus far. So, I'm very prayerful that she's going to be understanding of the stand that I do take, especially once it becomes clear to her that it doesn't mean that I love anybody any less. And it doesn't mean that I don't think that she should be doing what she's doing. So, but like anything that's been, I can't really recall anything that's been bold or direct. A couple times there have been some things that have happened on Facebook, and um it's very rarely with a female, it's usually with a male. And it because they have gotten a little like, where they're really overstepping their boundaries. When I show them my line, sometimes it gets to the point where they feel like a female should not do that because I can get pretty when you have to protect your space. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, yeah, it does. I mean, I had some we've talked about it in a group chat of some decisions that you're like, yeah, other people wouldn't
Mhm.
appreciate it. I mean, even your living situation,
Yep.
that was the one that really came to mind.
Yep.
That I remember you talking about where you're just like, yeah,
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense on paper, but it feels
Right.
right.
When I was very young, there was this comic strip that I saw. Oh, look at that confirmation. There was this comic strip about a boy who liked a girl that he wasn't supposed to like, and everybody else was acting all funny, like putting peer pressure on him, like he shouldn't be her friend. And he was bold enough to be her friend anyway. And that always stood out to me from a young, like I was like really young in elementary school.
Hmm.
I always knew that that was the way life was supposed to be. That spoke to me because that was how I was at the time. And I realized that that's always who I've been.
And you're bringing up something that that I feel strongly about, which is like crushes.
Mhm.
Right? And then
Mhm.
kids usually go through that gauntlet in middle school where it's like,
Mhm.
and the teasing that happens around
Yeah.
it. And I know we're not the only ones that feel this way, where
Mhm.
it's like, why would I be embarrassed about resonating with someone?
Mhm.
And then at the deeper level, what is that teaching someone but to be ashamed of what they're attracted to, which
Mhm.
then goes heavily into counter manifesting.
Yep.
Like, you don't wanna be ashamed with what you're attracted to, you want to lean in, you want to honor that, and you want to ask for more of it, because 'cause you're
Yeah.
attracted to it because it resonates.
Yeah.
And so that's been, like, that's been my journey is, like, when I feel that attraction with people outside my marriage, and
Mhm.
then, okay, like, checking in with, like,
Mhm.
what does this attraction mean?
Yeah.
Since I know it doesn't mean I'm gonna make these choices,
Right.
what is it telling me? What is this person bringing into my life for me at this moment?
Mhm.
What am I healing? What is it showing me? And they like it just continues to um expand as I get more and more comfortable feeling that spark of attraction from another female,
Mhm.
and then the people that I've been striking up conversations with at the improv community, the ones
Yeah.
where I am in my own energy
Yeah.
and they come to me have all been women.
Oh, really?
Yes, which
Oh,
is
wow.
way different than, like, I grew up with friends that were all boys.
Yeah.
Like, you and Kay are the deepest girlfriends that I have,
Yeah.
And
Love
and
our relationships.
like yeah, my first introduction to this improv community was a man because my instructor was a man.
Yeah.
And when I'm honestly purely in my own energy, when I am not trying to walk into a group to meet people, the
Uh-huh.
side conversations, the, "Oh, hey, you were funny last night," it's all women who come to me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a new space.
It's a new space for me. Yeah.
Mhm.
Because I wonder if this goes to embodiment. Like, when I was a
Mhm.
kid, even up into college,
Yeah.
I could feel when I was getting playful with another woman who was a friend of mine,
Yeah.
like, when I was being funny and comical and in my joy and in my expression,
Mhm.
like, if I had a mental image of who I was in that moment, I was a man.
Okay.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Like I it was masculine energy, I felt like I was
Mhm.
relating to them from a male role, a male
Mhm.
energy,
I
and
think
so
you knew it made them more comfortable in a sense, though.
it made me more comfortable too. I mean, like, I wore men's clothes as a kid. I wore boys' clothes as a kid. Like, there was a lot
Mhm.
of, gender expression play for me for a lot of different
Mhm.
layers of amusement and authenticity, but, like, in these particular moments, like, when I was really, really funny, like, with my college roommate and she inspired me to go to those silly places,
Yeah.
it didn't feel like 2 catty women. It didn't feel like 2
Yep.
giggling women. It felt like I was showing up as a man.
Yeah. That's why I said that because I had a lot of the same experiences and I never really looked at it that way. But I do know that, I was raised in a household where we were outnumbered by the males. And I love that energy. And when I bring that energy to my female relationships, it is because for me, it is minus the cattiness without even recognizing that from a young age. That's what I was holding that space where it was like, if that's how you guys are going to behave, then, that's fine. But I don't indulge in that behavior.
Right. Right. Oh, I like how you said that maybe I it was definitely more comfortable for me.
Yeah.
Definitely more
Okay.
comfortable. And with my life journey, I've had a lot of, like, questioning for myself and others about my sexuality. And
Mm,
at the early, early age, there was shame around that. Like, I can't wear that,
mhm.
that, because then people will think this, this, this. And, like, of course,
Yeah.
I have no judgment about it now, but that's what the 90s was for me.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, it's being comfortable, being seen, and being magnetizing to other women. That's
Mm,
really what it is. Becoming
yeah.
comfortable being magnetizing to women.
Yeah. I love I love that. I wish it's not that I don't have more of it, but I wish that more of them would feel comfortable. But I sometimes women are intimidated and won't. Like I get way more interaction from men than I receive from women.
Mhm.
And I think that it's because they won't allow themselves the opportunity to really get to know who I am at my core, or they can see who I am just from observing me because I hide nothing. I'm completely transparent. And quoting feel feel good life, like they're not ready. I don't think they're ready for that. Like it's it causes them to see certain things that they have to deal with or things about themselves that they may not be too pleased with, and they may not be ready to deal with that yet. But I'm ready with open arms. I love my relationships. Just like I love what we three have, me, you, and Kay. Like I love it. And all of the people that I've met at with Oliver and Mandy, I love those relationships. I feel like those relationships are like from a 3D perspective will last a lifetime, even though some of them we probably already knew each other, you know. But
You said something about the women not being ready, and to
mm,
challenge you a little bit,
okay,
I'm gonna you right? Like, because we
yes,
say
yes,
people are mirrors, and I'm like, "Hmm."
yes. Go ahead, go
The
ahead.
way I'm gonna challenge you is I'm going to talk about me.
Okay.
So, when I was having this a conversation with my husband this week,
Yeah.
and he said, we were talking about something, it doesn't matter what, and he said, "Well, to me. He said, "You know, your thoughts and beliefs are in the minority. Probably only 1 or 2% of people have those thoughts or beliefs."
Mhm.
And I was in the flow space, and when you're in the flow space, things just pop out of your mouth so that
Yeah,
your mind become aware that you have these beliefs.
yeah.
And I said very quickly without thinking, "I know that they don't have those beliefs and that I'm different than all of them. That's partly why I do it." And he was like,
Oh,
"That's why
yeah.
I do it." And I went,
Wow.
"Wait, wait," and in that moment, I was like, "Wait, wait, that's not what I'm talking about this." But of course
Yeah.
it came out because it was showing me, and
Oh,
so it was like this whole, like, it was
mm,
a deeper layer of I'm gonna reject them before they reject me, for me,
yeah.
and it was like, I'm gonna be different because I don't wanna be that over there,
Mhm,
and, like, returning home to, yeah, we have a lot of commonalities,
mhm.
and being open to actually being friends with people that maybe as a kid I would have had I did have judgments about. I was like, "I can't be friends
Yeah.
with you because this."
Yeah.
And being open to being friends with those kinds of people now, because we do have at our core a lot in common.
Mhm. Oh, man, that was beautifully stated, AJ. Especially the part about, am I doing it for that reason? Sometimes I used to. I used to. I actually just realized last year, no, earlier this year. Earlier this year was the first time I realized that in my 20s and 30s, even here in my 40s, because I'm 47 now. So yeah, even in my 40s, there have been times, but way more commonly in my 20s and 30s. And I think it was because in my 20s and 30s, I was a lot I looked a lot different than I do now. I'll just say it like that. And so I remember saying to myself a lot that they're gonna hate me. They're gonna hate me. But I didn't realize that I was manifesting that. I was.
Yeah.
I was manifesting that. And so I just had that realization recently that I was manifesting that. And so then I remember doing a post that said, instead of saying they're going to hate me, why don't we, like change the narrative? And so I've been changing the narrative ever since. But even though I've been changing it, even if you do change it, and even if you do embody the whole, being welcoming and coming from a space of love, there's still a lot of things that I notice that you can't change about people, and they're only going to be comfortable with so much.
Well, and that's their resonance, right? Like,
Yeah.
going back to the puzzle pieces, like,
Mhm.
every person has, like, the bands of frequencies that resonate for them in that particular
Mhm.
moment, and then they're gonna elevate,
Mhm.
and then new bands do.
Yes.
Yeah, so you're not gonna be everything for
Mhm.
everybody. And then as
Mhm.
you're talking, I'm hearing, like,
Yeah.
going back to my whole "What are you afraid of?" that always plays in my mind, like,
Yeah.
the rejection from a group member that I identify with.
Mhm.
Like, for me, it was the rejection from the females, rejection from the feminine energy. Okay, well, they'll all go super masculine because masculine's comfortable for me anyway.
Mhm.
And then stepping back into the feminine, going, "Yeah, I am feminine, and you as
Mhm.
a female can reject me, that's okay,"
Mhm.
because we're not one, like, homogeneous neutral group. We have variation.
Yeah. I love what you just said about what they identify with. Like, I'm okay with not identifying with those people. No, let me stop. I identify with people who love themselves. And when I say I'm okay with not identifying with them, I don't, I still have nothing but love. But I just want them so bad to love themselves to the point where they can love me too.
Love yourself first, then come back here.
Mhm. And I noticed that um, everybody, deals with that. I think we all do. I mean, that's just life. When a person doesn't love themselves, they have a hard time loving their mate or their family member or whomever.
I heard a, I don't remember where I heard it.
Mhm.
Someone had said, and I thought it was interesting, that we all have that initial rejection, and
Mhm.
it's fundamentally from the rejection of God.
Mm,
Specifically, okay, so
mhm,
the premise, I think that it's from the premise of we're all up there with God and our purest light energy, and then we make
mhm,
the choice to come down here to experience this duality, to feel things, and in
mhm.
that process, we forget that we're from there, and so there's this, like, deep undercurrent of a deep rejection of, "I'm not there,"
Yeah.
and then, like, forgetting that we made this choice and that
Mhm,
we are there and could be. I was
mhm.
curious if you had heard that before or
Mm-mm. No, it sounds beautiful though. I love it, and it resonates deeply with me.
and
I
so it's
think that
about, like, first off, recognizing that the rejection is not from any of the people in your life.
mhm,
And then second of all, recognizing that you're not separated from God, you can welcome it back anytime you want.
mhm.
And then that separation isn't there.
Yep.
But we have to find it for ourselves.
Yeah. That's a clip, you know?
There's so many clips in this one,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna feel into which ones and I'm gonna enjoy it. I
Yeah.
have it's like a balance of not being in my ego when I'm doing it. You know,
It's
like, "Oh,
so
that was a really good clip."
sweet. She said, "You don't want their love if it's toxic. You don't want that. Let them keep it." Yeah. And that's usually where I'm at.
Yeah.
But, I have a confession, and, my mom had to teach me that, and I still have to lean into that sometimes because I that's a lesson for me. That's been a life lesson for me, and I feel that it is part of my soul contract, and it is part of my karma or something because I am very I have to always go back to my mom's words in my head, like, "So what if she doesn't like you? So what that she doesn't wanna play with you?" You know? She would be so frustrated with me, and she's like, "You have to," what did she tell me? "You are your own, like, friend, so to speak, like, you are your own source. Don't have this longing for this person where you need them so that you can be okay." That was her message for me. And every now and then, I still find myself having to lean back into what mom said because sometimes it does bother me. And I have to realize that it's not me, you know? Well, I don't want to say I'm perfect. There could be things about me
It
that a
could just
person
be a
doesn't like.
mismatch. It's
Yeah,
not you or them, it's just a mismatch.
yeah. But the times when I do know for a fact that it's, they're just being um negative, um and you can tell because sometimes there's like the little mean girl stuff that goes along with it or whatever.
Like we told our girls about yeah, like, they learn that, they think
Yeah,
that's how they're supposed to show up. Everyone at their core we believe is love, but if they think that this is what girls do, then they're gonna
yeah,
do it too because they don't know of
yeah,
another way.
yeah,
That's what we were telling our girls in preschool with the mean girl stuff, it showed up in preschool.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Yeah. I learned that eventually once man, once people would harm the ones that I love, especially if they were doing it by means of that, then it I could become a meaner girl than them.
Oh, it comes oh my goodness, I'm like, "When are we gonna end this?" Because 'Cause I'm noticing the
Yeah.
time. I think this is
Yeah.
the perfect thing to end it on.
Yeah.
Channelers can channel whatever frequency they're in very, very easily, which is why Alexis says so many hurtful things. Where does it come from? Because 'Cause I'm channeling and I'm not in a good space, and, release that guilt and shame of the hurtful things you said as a kid. Because if you're a channeler, it just
Yeah.
comes,
It
and
does.
now that you know that, your biggest responsibility is to know what frequency you're in
Yeah.
and only allow yourself like, set parameters that I only channel of love and light.
Yes.
Because I sometimes, July, it flowed more easily from that space,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
I thought that meant that was because that's more of who I was,
Mm-mm.
and it was about allowing that in
Mhm.
and learning to allow this in.
Yep.
Yeah.
I knew from the day I met you that you weren't that person.
Aw,
And she says
thanks.
friends are great. but all people are not healthy to absorb. It's natural to want people to like us.
Yes.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah. Oh, and I was gonna say that too. So July, when you learn that from
Mhm.
your mom, there's like a
Yeah.
balance that we're teaching the girls, which is like, because for us, they'll say like, "Mommy, how do I look?" when they put on a like, "Do you
Yeah.
like the dress? Do you like the
Mhm.
shirt?"
Yeah.
And my husband and I reflexively, because they're
Mhm.
daughters and we've been thoughtful about this.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? Because that's the only thing that
Mhm.
matters.
Mm.
And we did that almost to a fault where they like didn't hear our input at all. And then we brought it back to is like, okay, now it's like, how do you feel? Well, I like seeing you in that. You look happy in that because they do want that connection from us. And that was them seeking connection and us shutting down connection
Mhm.
because of too much in our head concern of what it would imply.
Right.
And so it's about doing that beautifully. Yeah. So it is natural to want people to like us. It that
Mhm.
and it's natural to welcome it.
Mhm.
Um As long as that's not the fundamental way that we're filling our own cups.
Right.
Like, how did Mandy used to say it? Mandy was like, "I don't expect to hear gratitude from people, and so when I
Mhm.
do, it's a delight." Like, something
Yeah.
like that, and I
That's
take that
how
on,
I
I
feel.
like that.
That's how I feel too. And I also look at it like instead of expecting it when it comes for me, I feel like it's confirmation from God.
Yeah, and it's part of the receiving, right?
Mhm.
As we open to receive, part of it is excuse me,
There you go. You
receiving
just did a Mandy.
I just cleared, yeah, I just cleared.
The
Burping while we're
energy.
talking.
Yeah.
Oh, because I 'cause I bodied her energy.
Channeling. No, you're well,
Oh,
I'm just saying she said she's channeling and it clears the energy when you burp.
yeah. Uh, yeah, so, uh, that was a pattern interrupt, that means the thought didn't need to be finished, I'm trusting it, if it doesn't come back, that's cool. I would love to be with my
Yeah.
family now, I've loved
Yeah.
this call, I feel like I have shown up more authentically in this call than
Yes.
all the others. The other ones weren't bad, it's just this is a newer level.
This was beautiful. Thank you so much. And we had a little extra time on here. So thank you. And our viewers will be very pleased, I'm sure. So love you. Have
Love you
fun with
all.
your family.
Thank you, I love you, enjoy your family as well.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.